Y
Yeah.
vas a ver cómo tu ruca te va a lamber el asterisco.
And if she is going down on you and you have that situation going on, put a fucking ring on that. God damn, that is one trooper right there. But
Very true.
talking about fiascos and hairy balls and stinkiness, this League's Cup reeks of pendejadas, and it's been pretty evident from the get-go. I haven't even been watching it since we covered the game on Saturday. I'll talk more about that later. But I mean, if everyone's keeping track, Liga MX is getting absolutely cooked in League's Cup, but it doesn't even feel like they're trying.
It doesn't, and that's the crazy thing. There's these moves that are just happening on the field, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? And I, as a fan, right, I'm trying to explain it to myself. It's like, oh, it's just a preseason tournament, right? Like a lot of kings are still trying to get worked out, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, no, it's fucking not. Our league has been going for 4 seasons now. Cruz Azul isn't looking bad. It's not like the worst game that we just had tonight, but everybody else, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, yeah. And I can only speak about my experience on Saturday. I went to Levi's and covered the San Jose Earthquakes versus Chivas. It was the real deal Holyfield, the actual team. And the first thing that struck me is number one, what a great attendance. It broke the League's Cup record. They had over 50,000 fans show up. And honestly, majority was Chivas. Chivas were officially the home team in this battle. San Jose wore their away jersey. There was no Chicharo, not even warming up, not even on the bench. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized that he was at the game, but he was sick. And apparently there was a lot of players on Chivas team that had stomach issues, and the lineup was very bad. There are some players in there that have no reason to start with Chivas. Players like Pavel. I know people like really thought he was gonna pan out, but Pavel Perez has not panned out. Also Gonzalez, who typically is a solid choice, he just wasn't good. Even Pocho Guzman, man, I'm finding reasons to I'm losing reasons to defend him, man. Like he's just not good. And Ricardo Marin, who did absolutely nothing. Uh, Chicharo was deeply missed on Saturday, and as soon as Gago made those moves, he brought in Nene Beltran. And a lot of people like to criticize Nene Beltran, but he is the machine. He keeps this thing nice and polished and moving steady. And as soon as he came in, it was an immediate impact. Also, Piojo came in, and my favorite upcoming player, Hormiga Armando Gonzalez, who came out and played balls out. So, the team looked much better in the second half, but they weren't able to beat San Jose. They conceded a goal very early in the match, and were able to get a miracle goal at the very end of the match. Went to PKs, and Cade Cowell, the homecoming king, he had a terrible game. He missed the PK, and San Jose ends up with 2 points and are ahead of this group, and they will be playing against San Jose tonight.
So then here's my question. In what you call a Copa de Chocolate, are you upset that your team is fielding chavitos?
I think that my biggest issue with it is, last year we were embarrassed. Let's call it what it is. We lost to Cincinnati, and I thought that was ironic because we lost to that team, and the guy who was scoring the goals on the other
To an
side.
expansion team. Let's get
Yeah,
things straight. You lost to an expansion team.
and Ricardo Pelas had gone on record saying that Brandon Vasquez was too expensive, that he wasn't worth the money, and he ends up scoring damn near a hat trick against Chivas. So yeah, it was a terrible League's Cup performance last year, and Chivas had gotten such a great start to the league, and then after that it kind of just went to shit. So I thought they would learn their lesson and at least try to make it a competitive game, but it clearly was not the case on Saturday. But here's the thing, dude. I don't think anybody has any has had a respectable performance. I was catching yesterday's game against Austin FC and Rayados, and Rayados didn't look like they wanted to be there, man. It was just terrible. And I'm looking at these score lines like Minnesota beating Necaxa. Right now, Cruz Azul is tied with Charlotte. Um, you have some of these results, dude. I think Atlas are the only team that have won so far.
I think the important thing to take in mind here is just very much so at what point in the season everybody is in, right? So Liga MX is, let's be honest, we did a couple things differently this year and same thing last year, right? Since the Leagues Cup's been in fruition. We we shortened our off season and we try to sneak in a couple jornadas before the start of the Leagues Cup, right? So therefore, our preseason is a lot shorter. If you remember last year, Cruz Azul, the biggest problem, wait, la que está atrás de la portería está bien buena, la de la camisa negra. Pero, nonetheless, I need to come back to my point. Last year, when the Leagues Cup started, one of the problems with Cruz Azul was that los refuerzos hadn't arrived yet. The team wasn't complete. And halfway, I think it was like match week 2 of the tournament, finally los refuerzos estaban listos, everything was ready to go. But we had already fired our coach. Things was shit was still in flux, right? Everything was wrong. So you have to keep in mind that a lot of these teams haven't had time to gel, especially the big boys, unlike, your broke ass little club, the ones who spend money and bring in new players and do all of these things. Those teams aren't 100% ready to go.
I and it's the argument that MLS gives us when CONCACAF kicks off. It kicks off in like typically February, March, and that is not even the start of the season for the MLS. Meanwhile, Liga MX has already had a lot of momentum going, and now this is how they pay us back for this Leagues Cup. But the difference is there's nothing to fight for in Leagues Cup. There's no prestige, there's no money, and it's more of an inconvenience for Liga MX because you had the summer break. A lot of these players didn't even get to rest because they were participating in Copa America. And now you have the start to the season. You didn't really have a preseason, right? And you have to go to the United States. And typically, this is not a very well organized tournament. Sometimes flights are messed up. Sometimes hotels and training is messed up. And it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And to me, like looking at these results, I almost feel like Liga MX teams were advised not to give a fuck and protest this tournament because, especially against Austin FC yesterday, there was some really sus decision making from Rayados, and I also saw one from Pachuca today where there was a clip of the goalkeeper going to grab a ball from the ball boy, but the ball was still in play. He thought the ball went outside and it was a goal kick, but it was still a live ball and there was no goalkeeper. I'm like, bro, this is some like max match fixing type of shit that I don't know. That's just what I came across.
Hey, hi, man, everyone. I just wanted to chime in real quick, and give a rebuttal. So, like, I think those two incidents that you're talking about are really interesting, but I think they're isolated. If you watch this Cruz Azul game, if you watch the Chivas game, if you watch the majority of the games, you'll see that they care, that they are putting in that effort. I think it's what Abdias was talking about. This is early in the season for them. A lot of these teams are still getting used to one another, because of the two seasons a year format. A lot of these teams are in flux right now. And I think, like, for instance, like this Greek striker for Cruz Azul, this whole match, he barely knew I don't think he knows too well his teammates. And then you add to that the fact that, you're playing all away games, the travel, and then these penalty shootouts are designed to be in favor of the home team. If you look at the game now, like everyone behind the goalie is a Charlotte FC fan. So like
Yeah.
you know, the whole thing is designed in favor of the MLS teams. The timing is wrong, and it's a whole lot of things. But one thing that I can say confidently is that the teams are trying.
You really think so?
I do. I'm watching this Cruz Azul game, and they're ready to throw down for a little bit. And the Chivas game, they were getting down. It's just it didn't work. And then you have these things that are worked against you. Like you add that, and you have the result that we see today.
You know what?
I see a little bit of effort, but I'm not
Hold on. I'm
convinced.
gonna chime in on this one. I'm gonna chime in on this one. And yes, you're right. Everything perfect. You have said all of these words. Now, what I will say is they are trying. There is some effort being done, but you know what it is, dude? You can tell that the team is half gassed. The way that they're playing slower. It's not the same level of competition that we were seeing just a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago in Liga MX. Like it's just not there. And god damn it, Cruz just fucking lost it. El pendejo de Charlie. Y no sé quién fue el otro güey, pero
It was
puta
Romo.
madre, güey. Romo también. Pues para que veas, güey, los
You guys are gonna
dos.
make me tune in on this bullshit, man.
I mean, look, güey, if you can find un, un buen stream pirata, chingatelo. ¿Verdad? Así es como yo me lo estoy chingando. Because I'm not going to pay for this subscription. This tournament is not worth it. Last year, I had it for free because I used to go to the Seattle Sounders Stadium all the time. They gave you a free
Gay.
pass. Yay, ¿sabes qué, güey? Todavía me mamas un huevo, pero no hay pedo. So they gave you a free pass. But as of right now, bro, get yourself a good illegal stream and watch it. It's worth it. The white people on the stands right now are shirtless. They're going crazy. Like it's a good moment for them.
If you were trying to
Have
convince me,
fun.
that was a great propaganda to not tune in, bro.
What to
But
what to watch some white baddies on the screen jumping?
oh man, yeah, no, I don't know about that, Chief.
No te gustan las blanquitas, güey?
No, I thought you meant like the ultras.
Dude, there are no ultras in the U.S. The
Oh,
fuck you talking about?
yeah.
There's Pancho Villa's army at best.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tune in. That's another thing too is they don't make it easy for you to watch this tournament. It's obviously Apple has all exclusive rights. However, TUDN has this ideal, and there might be some games that you might be able to find
For
through.
a couple games, but the thing
Yeah.
is, dude, so like Cruz Azul, right? One of the bigger market teams don't have a contract. It wasn't on TUDN, it wasn't anywhere.
Wow.
And then furthermore, I'm still plugged in to the motherland. It was nowhere in Mexico to be seen. Like it wasn't
Yeah, I
on
believe you.
TV Azteca, it wasn't on Azteca Deportes, it wasn't on Cielo, it wasn't on fucking anything.
Yeah, I believe you.
Gentlemen, I hope my sound is okay. I'm driving home right now.
Hey, Elbow, welcome.
How you guys
No
doing,
hay
man?
pedo, papi Lur.
How are
Lord, tú
you
siempre eres
doing?
bienvenido aquí.
I'm doing all right, man. Recovering pretty well. Just was visiting my wife at her hospital, but yeah, man. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. In the couple years that we've had this tournament, I haven't watched it due to total lack of interest, man. To be honest with you, what I would really prefer to have, and I know you, some of you guys might laugh at me. I'd rather we played Copa MX.
Yeah.
Why? There was more value to that because you got to get your youngsters some playing time. When Abdias brought up, if I think if you had any issues with the youngsters playing for Chivas, in my head I was like, you know what? If the Mexican clubs want to use this to develop some of their youth, by all means do that. Throw away this tournament. There is nothing to gain from it. I preferred Copa MX for that reason because again, yeah, there was some pride in winning a title there and all that, but you had participation of some of these young guys that some of them developed to be decent players. So um, this league's cup, man, is just it doesn't do anything for me. And I think a lot of Mexican fans doesn't do anything for. And I'm not going to make any excuses for Mexican teams losing. They've had 3 to 4 weeks of competitive games to gel. That's generally enough to get a good feel for your teammates. And so I'm not going to make those excuses. But honestly, uh, I have nothing nice to say about this tournament. It's a waste of time for our league
Yep.
and a waste of time for our starting players.
Yeah.
You know, just to add to that, I was listening to Rafa Ramos, I think, on Raza Deportivo,
Mm-hmm.
and he was stating that his sources revealed to him that he Chivas and the players, they only received a couple $100,000 for
Yeah.
this match that broke records, right? So like the lion's share is going to US Soccer, MLS, and Apple. And so it really does seem like to be a bad deal on all sides for the Mexican part.
Absolutely.
They
What is there to
follow
gain?
just
What I well, here's what I will say, right?
hold on. Before you guys go to
Está
a
bueno,
good point,
está bueno, guapo,
Rifaldo,
dale.
since you mentioned Rafa Ramos, you're now one of Joel's favorite people on the planet. That's all. You guys go to the valuable stuff.
All right. So what I was gonna say, the big thing that and we talked about it last year when this first came about, right? Of what is this? What's purpose does it serve? What's the fucking point of all of this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to ultimately it's the exposure to get us used to the idea of the leagues combining. At some point down the line, the leagues are going to combine. That's what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? So
They
this is
already
what this
did.
is showing us.
They're already combined. There won't be one league. There'll be like a combined cup, like we're watching, but you need FIFA's approval. And we talked about this.
FIFA
Abdias.
has given us the approval, though.
No,
FIFA, no,
if
espérate,
it
espérate.
gets
FIFA
to
has
a
given the
combined
approval
league,
for it to happen over here,
no way, they'll
and
lose
that's
the
where the
shit.
hypocrisy came about.
No, but
Whereas,
that's
like,
not a
wait, you
combined
want us to
league.
make kind of like
That's
a
just a
super league
tournament.
on this side, but on the other side, you're not letting them.
Well, see, that's why they won't be able to do that. If that happens, ya valió madre, and then you'll have the G32 or whatever number they're at now. And then in Europe, you'll see a Super League as well, which I mean, it's been on the work since the 90s, I think. No, late 90s, I think we were G16. And then what was it, like 2 years ago, where Real Madrid pulled out, pulled out like in the last minute, right? And there was like everyone was just waiting on them. Um, and as I'm saying, if that does happen at
They
some
got
point,
they got scared off by the fans,
yeah.
not the fans de ellos, but all the fans of the English Premier players. I mean,
Oh,
coaches, not coaches,
yeah.
oyo. The fans, pues, they were fucking erupting, doing protests and stuff. Dijeron, ¿sabes qué? Our teams are not going to the Super League.
Yeah, and and if something like that does happen, because you never know, eventually something like that could happen. And then I think FIFA would break off, and then we'll see like the World Cup every 2 years. So and then it'll just be like you won't be playing in club and country. You'll just be playing at either or. I mean, you'll probably switch, but not at the same time, just because there'll be all those tournaments. So I mean, but I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I don't think FIFA approves a combined league. I do think they're working up to like a combined tournament, and I could see a tournament where they invite teams from other countries, and we've seen those. They just play out there in the summer. We've seen Chivas play against, all these different European teams, and then they throw one or two from South America. So I mean that's very possible.
Look, Joel, you bring up a good point. The only thing is that the very words from the League's Cup officials have been that they don't want to compete with Comebol, not Comebol, with CONCACAF Champions League. That is the official competition. that is the one that they're not touching. So therefore, if we want a true competition, kind of like what you're describing, that is the the Champions League.
I guess here's a question for you guys. Would you say giving a direct spot for the Club World Cup will make it more prestigious, like the Leagues Cup?
I think there is
No,
a
you get to
spot.
the Conca Champions. You get a Conca Champions spot, not a
Oh, you get a Coca Champion spot.
yeah.
I see. Yeah, well, that's kind of a hard incentive then, because I mean, yeah,
Puebla Conca Champions.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Though the one-sidedness of this cup is what it obviously makes it less prestige, where all the games just played. With the mixed teams always being the away team, but I feel that for the tournament to grow, you just have to keep playing it, and then home and home, and then just keep playing it to eventually it can become um, more competitive and more. It is the teams that are going to give it the prestige, the
You know,
matches and whatnot.
I really don't think it's
I
that
don't.
complicated. Look, this is a tournament that it's fine. It can exist. I just don't agree with the structure of it. It should just be spread out like
Yeah,
Champions League. Let's have it where you get to go and play home and away matches and make it fair, and not
The
have to
money.
stop, both leagues and just like have it be another one. And like I don't understand why we have to take a whole month to dispute this tournament. It makes no sense.
My
yeah,
my
and
Bro,
my
we get
issue
to.
because the
my issue
Mexican
with this tournament.
Federation has proven one thing time and time again, right? And it's that it's a cheap whore for money, and that will
Mm-hmm.
do anything for a quick money grab.
Yep.
Oh, but this
Guys,
isn't a quick money grab, though.
at the end of the day, who really is getting the money grab off of this? It's probably the U.S. Soccer Federation, would they?
Yeah, Jesus
Exactly,
Martinez even said
and
it.
we're
They're
getting
not.
a
They're not
certain
making a lot
share.
of money.
They're
Yeah.
not making a lot of money, but they're gaining something, right? And the money, I'm pretty sure they're
Well,
not fucking
he
complaining
said
about.
he said it's a bet, like a long-term bet.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
but
I
so
just
it's not.
again once again what we're doing is taking care of development for U.S. national team players, for their clubs, for this, that, and the other. Yeah, sure, the directivos in Mexico probably get a nice little chunk of change too, but honestly, we're a goddamn welfare check for the.
Go, though. I don't think that the Liga MX owners are dumb to do like a deal where they don't see any benefit, where it's like
Oh no, what I'm saying is
one-sided.
no,
I'm
no,
sure
but
there's.
they would get a chunk of change, right? I'm not saying they wouldn't, but again, concessions and all that stuff. If you're negotiating something like that in the U.S., who's going to end up getting the larger piece of the pie?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't. I think that Martinez. I don't think he was pressed on it when he was at Fútbol Picante, and he said it was long-term bet. And I would have liked to hear, well, you know, what's going to be the long-term benefit? Where's the Liga gonna end up benefiting? He just didn't say it, but there's something there. But who knows? Who knows what it is? We're not being shown that. But I wanted to touch real quick what you said about Copa MX. I agree with you. I really like that tournament. It sucks that the clubs. It was the clubs that didn't take it serious. A lot of the Primera División clubs. If you look, it went away for a while, and then when it came back, like if you look at the winners, it was second division teams winning it, and it was just
Senor, what the fuck are you talking about? Cruz Azul would win that thing, and we made a big deal
when
out of
it
it.
Las
look
Super
back when
Chivas también.
look no, but you're talking about more recent. Look when it
Ah, pero no
restarted, and you
mames,
had
güey.
like
¿Por qué chingados siempre hablas del año del queso? Háblame
it's
de
not
por
that
lo
long
menos,
ago.
mira, güey,
Because
háblame de una morrita que
we're
me puedo
talking about
coger de por lo menos 15,
no,
de
we're talking
15 a
about
18
why
años.
the clubs
Y estoy hablando
because
de México, cabrones.
it,
Ya me estabas
it
espantando.
corresponds to this. It corresponds because you have a tournament that could have been useful, and then the clubs just didn't appreciate it for whatever stupid reason. They just didn't take it serious, and then
Can't
they kind of did eventually, and then it went away again. And so
can't
it's
they
like
just go on?
And
Oh,
that's
there you
and that's sad because again,
it
you think
is
about it, right? This could have been a great development for youth players or younger players. Hell, you could even have like one of the assistant coaches coaching the team. There's some development there
exactly,
for Mexican coaches. I
and
mean,
yeah,
you don't
and
need to
look,
have the main guys in there.
go. So now that we're
and there's many ways to play it. It doesn't have to be,
I mean,
there's different ways that they could schedule it so that it's not a burden. So I
yeah,
mean,
that's the
it's
way
just
Cruz Azul won it. When they
I
won it the last time, fue con Chavitos, fue con Allison en la portería, fue con un chingo de cosas diferentes.
ya que
Like, that's
estamos
the
en
way
el
you're supposed to play that one.
dude, ya que estamos en el tema de este, do you think there's like they're imposed not to play like younger players? Porque this tournament, I think hay que poner a todos los youngsters, get them some playing time, get them accustomed to playing, you know, the first team, pero no se ve que usen, you know, the younger players.
Maybe it's a possibility, but I think it's too I think it's too early into this tournament that they've some of these teams have even thought about it, right?
I don't
You know
think the
what?
clubs would agree to that.
I'm not gonna discard it, especially when we're putting a $25,000 gag order on players, coaches, and everybody else.
Hey,
I,
So once we start doing those type of things, yeah, you're a fucking scumbag, and I wouldn't doubt the fact that you're forcing me to use X amount of star
so
players every single
here's
time that I field a team.
here's the thing that hopefully Rifado caught that. Si le están imponiendo the 25,000 gag order or ticket or whatever, ¿quién le va a imponer a que paguen? Like, if you really wanted to, el Rafa dijo,
yeah,
okay, I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay it. I would make me pay it. Are they really
yeah.
gonna tell him, hey,
What,
pay me the 25,000?
what
Well,
are you
lo
gonna
voy
do?
a
Kick
jugar.
him out of the tournament?
Exactly. That's
Kick
what he
him.
was saying. Are you gonna kick the whole team out of the tournament? Si todos dicen,
Not
hey,
even.
this fucking tournament sucks.
Are you gonna kick them out of the country for expressing a freedom of speech that's
Exactly.
guaranteed within your country? And then, of course, the whole conversation about like, well, they're private contractors versus being contracted, blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah
well, so
blah.
see. But still,
But
they're not gonna kick out a player or a team por decir, this tournament fucking sucks, bro.
yeah, no.
O a Guiñac, hay que decir, a él le dijeron, hey, here's a $25,000 freaking ticket por andar hablando mal. Who's gonna tell him?
Tigres is probably gonna be like, hey, Guiñac, here's a $25,000 bonus. Don't ask questions.
Net.
Oh man, I don't know. All I know is League's Cup's been really hard to watch and not something that is worth anyone's time. And it looks like the Liga MX teams aren't taking it. Like I said, I don't think they're taking it serious. Pumas lost to Austin. You had Tijuana lose to LAFC. Did you guys see Osorio lose his?
Dude, again, he went crazy.
Yeah, dude. It's like someone needs to check on that, dude.
Ya se quería agarrar putazos con el ref. You saw that shit? Headbutting it?
Headbutting, like that's a no-no. And Puebla lost to Inter Miami.
Hold on. I just want to clarify something. It wasn't a headbutt. He just leaned into the conversation.
No,
all
of
right.
course.
If you watch it,
that was a fighting stance.
There's no movement. Look, he just lowered his head into the conversation. The fact that he's lowered his forehead into another person's nose is completely beside the fact. All right. He just leaned in. That's all that happened. But I love that type of
If
passion.
somebody goes to you, Abdias, y hace the same thing, are you not going to say shit? Are you?
No,
those are
que
not
le meto un
fighting
putazo,
words?
le meto un putazo. Esa es otra cosa.
There we go.
I think he just wanted to nuzzle a little bit just to feel better.
Right?
I thought his reaction was kind of warranted. Like, I think it was Rivas or
Yeah, he
I
got
forgot
injured.
the player's name. He got knocked out cold, and I don't think they responded to it fast enough, and I thought it was a foul. So
no, it was. That was the thing, and the biggest thing was the fact they weren't allowing medical personnel onto the field. Right,
yeah, so,
like
exactly.
especially a hit like that. That was to the like no se miraba tanto en la nuca. It was a little bit more in the back, but he still went down the way he did. Your CTE protocol should be stop the game, let the medical people in to check him out. And if anything, as a coach, that's what I would argue about for the wellness of my player.
For sure. Let me go over some of these results. Atlas, again, the only team so far to win against the MLS team, against Houston Dynamo. Mazatlan lost to New England. Chivas tied with San Jose, but then lost in PK shootout. Querétaro also lost in a PK shootout to New York City. Querétaro at the New York Yankee Stadium. That's a sight to see there. Montreal beat San Luis yesterday.
Now, hold on. Something really quickly that I want to point out. Or hold on, which New York? Was it Red Bull?
City.
Okay, never mind. Fuck them. Keep going.
Pachuca beat Red Bull on PK shootouts yesterday. Austin defeated Rayados. Necaxa lost to Minnesota. And it looks like Cruz Azul lost to Charlotte on PKs.
Sadness. Now, a couple things. Red Bull had their big brother Leipzig watching them from the stands throughout the whole match and just to get their shit pushed in by Pachuca. So Pachuca is great and will now be known abroad for, puteando al hermanito chiquito de Leipzig. So,
So, I just want to add one quick thing, and that's that, like, if we look at the results in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they're not far off when Liga MX is playing away games. You see, the format, this is why the format is so important here, because where we have the away game in, what's it called? In someone fart.
No, that was my force feedback on my driving wheel.
Bro, what the fuck was that, man?
That's called spinning out, boys.
Uh-huh.
Hey, are you sure, Way? It sounds like your flashlight, Way, going in.
Está sufriendo, güey. No, but what I was saying is that the format, it really does favor these MLS teams in the sense that you go to PK, there is no away game for you to redeem yourself. And so this is why it looks so one-sided, because it is. And so like everyone is like going bananas right now, like, oh, MLS is better, or like this is a joke. But the thing is, it's like it's not far off from the normal. It's just that the format is what's making it look so lopsided. So I just wanted to add that real quick.
Yeah.
I believe we're gonna have to put Mr. Rifado into the MLS fanboy category. I've caught on to you, guy. You're one of these MLS fanboys, man.
I don't support any team in the MLS, but I do look out for Mexican American young talents. And I, like I was looking out at Julian Araujo and Efrain Alvarez, and there's a few others that I.
We have a conspiracy theory that he's Jóvenes Aztecas on Twitter or whatever the fucking handle is.
Jóvenes Aztecas 2.0.
Yeah. Ricky, welcome to the show, man. It's nice to hear from you.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. I have to bring my championship mentality to the podcast because not everyone has seen a bicampeonato in their lifetime,
You know what's interesting is you're one of the only excusable teams from this tournament because you haven't played yet. One of the benefits of, I don't know, winning the league is that you get to skip all the group stage, and they're awaiting their opponent in the round of 32.
They played today.
It might be a friendly, but it's not Leagues Cup.
No, sí, pero pues still.
Yeah.
Always keeping up with you guys. I swear you guys call yourself Chivas fans, but you're so up to date with what America does. It warms my heart.
Espérate. Antes
Warms
que te
my
la
heart.
termines de jalar. But
Warms
in
my
that
heart.
friendly, you know who they're playing, right?
Who?
Who's the friendly that they're playing? They're playing Chelsea.
Oh, they're playing Chelsea?
Played
Yeah.
Chelsea, ya se acabó 3-0.
Who won?
Chelsea le dio una goleada.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Ahora sí, güey, perdón, ahora sí te la puedes seguir jalando. Háblanos
Oh,
de tu equipo chico.
you can put that in your category Cruz Azul. Chemo watched America lose to Chelsea trophy in your trophy cabinet. That's what you can do. You reach for like the America's bitch and all that good stuff. And they probably made a couple million for that game too. Unlike your bum ass team. What you guys meant? I overheard that $100,000
Oh
to make a
man.
fool out of yourself in that chocolate cup, in that in that hand that poor man's
Está
Interliga.
bien, güey, te
Poor
dolió, no
man
hay
Interliga.
pedo.
Poor
No
man's
hay
Interliga.
pedo,
That's what it
mijo.
is. That's what it is.
So
This
I'm
is
not
the
expecting a lot
this is
from
the
America
pre
right
cup
now.
to the main cup. So in its nature, it's a chocolate cup.
Like just to add some context to what's going on in America, like I think Brian Rodriguez is leaving, and then they lost Quinones. They haven't replaced him, and then you have a bunch of players coming back from Copa America. Like right now, America is in flux, so I wouldn't expect too much from them in the next couple of weeks. I still think they need to get their squad together. But yeah, like America right now is they're being picked apart, or they're selling a lot of players, and a lot of new people are going to be coming in.
That's because that's what happens to teams that have good players, unlike the rest of the Liga MX teams. So this isn't surprising to me in the least bit. Then Cáceres is pretty much he's guaranteed to leave as well. But you guys, Mr. Rifaldo, just make. I caught the last end of the last last week's podcast with you guys. After I got off, that was a hell of a conversation you guys had. Trying to hype up this shitty ass cup, giving horrible examples of why it's like 200
Ricky,
years from now.
Ricky, ¿no te
But
llegó el cheque?
let me quote Michael Jordan. Fuck them kids. Fuck them. I don't give a shit about what my
Yeah.
kids, your kids, or who else's kids 100 or 200 years from now are gonna do. I'm trying to get entertained now. That's a bullshit argument, and whoever uses it is just an MLS fanboy.
Ves, that just proves why you're a fucking escarga whore. You don't care about anything. All you want is entertainment. So
Oh,
yeah,
and
go suck on the tit of
weren't you the
Televisa
one that
and go
discredited
do that.
Liga MX the last podcast? You imbecile!
I did. I did. And I
Because it's split in
dismerit
half.
a
All right,
short
let me ask you a
season
question. Let
format.
me ask you a question. So, and if that's the case, does MLS have more prestige because their tournament is year long?
It's not year long.
It's not year long.
It's they follow a weird season format. They don't play the way that the
Is
rest of
it
the world
split in half?
plays.
Yes or no?
Seems like they follow the actual weather season.
Yeah, they're nah, bro.
Sí,
MLS
comienzan en
is not
spring,
the
acaban en
example.
fall.
No. You're right, but MLS is not the example to follow. You're using a shitty league for a shitty point.
Also, so what's the point of hyping up this cup then? You just made my point. It's a shitty
An
league
investment,
with a chocolate
an investment,
investment.
right? So that's what
It
was the
isn't enough.
conversation of the first
It
half
isn't
before you
enough
came in
that
here.
it is. Let me finish because you're just rambling and running your dick sucker.
No, tú pendejo, tú eres el que está hablando un montón de
It isn't
pendejadas.
enough that Mexico was surrounded by trash for the last 50 years and literally brought, you can't even say it brought up this shitty um, conference or whatever you want to call CONCACAF. It isn't enough that they play USA every goddamn friendly and they play these damn banana countries like Trinidad and Tobago and all these fucking banana boat countries. I mean, that
Oh
isn't
my
that's
god.
not investment. That's you want 50 more years of that, and you're trying to convince me that's how Mexico gets to the top.
I mean, that's what we have, my dear good sir. I
So
cannot
so
make Mexico move geographically now, can I?
no, but that's what you're trying to sell me on.
On the reality?
No, we all know the
Yes.
reality. If
Then
you're
what the
calling into
fuck
this,
do you want? ¿Qué quieres, güey? ¿La 4T?
no. Yeah,
No, güey, no
don't
hay
switch
pedo.
up
Te
the
vendo la,
argument. Don't switch
la
up the
cuarta
argument.
transformación, güey. No hay pedo.
Don't
Ey,
switch up the
¿sabes qué?
argument.
Todo
Stay
va a estar bien.
consistent. You're
If
¿Sabes
I
trying
qué,
to
could
güey?
just
sell
Bota
me
ese
piggyback
on.
No
You're
hay
trying to
pedo,
sell
dalo
me
tus
on
6 años a
Trinidad
López
and
Obrador.
Tobago
No
and
seas pendejo,
turning
carnal.
Mexico into Germany, you moron. That's never gonna happen.
So I just want to respond real quick, Ricky, to that, and that's that. Like Joel brought up a really good point last pod about who finances these European teams, and the majority of it nowadays, at least for the big guys, is foreign money. And so this idea of like us getting more foreign money, these bigger, conglomerates to invest on this side of the pond, is something that can definitely change the quality of the league in the long run. And so that's the sort of argument that we're making, is that like in the long run, 20, 30 years from now, maybe even 100 years from now, if that big money changes from European teams to what's it called, Liga MX or MLS or anyone this side of the pond, it could greatly change the game. It would turn it on its head. And so that's the point that we were trying to make, or that I was. And
Who made that point? You?
well, yeah, the point that this is a long-term investment, and
Oh,
like
let me
it's
just.
not
I don't want
it's
to take
not
up too
set in
much
stone.
time because
Go ahead.
I don't watch chocolate cups like you guys league, whatever you want to call this horrible excuse of a trophy that you guys are trying to tell me it's a Champions League and Libertadores combined. I'm not buying it. You guys can do mental gymnastics about that. That's okay.
¿Dónde
Th-
escuchaste
th-
No, no,
eso?
no, no, no. No, we're
this is where
telling
you.
you that it
This is where
could
you're
be.
wrong. This
That
is
if
where
there
you're
was
wrong in regard
investment, it could grow to be that
investment.
within the
100 years
future.
from now, yeah.
Now,
Let me go get
ahora,
my time
espérate, güey.
machine. Let me
Espérate,
go get my
¿sabes qué?
time
We
machine
had
and
this
I'll
whole
tell you how it goes.
conversation. You had
Look,
to leave. I
hey,
heard your bitch in the
Mr.
background telling you
Rifado,
that you had to
hey,
go. Pinche mandilón. So, ¿sabes
this
qué?
guy's just
Cállate el
running his
hocico y
dick
luego
sucker.
hablamos.
He can't even hear.
Okay? Ahora,
He
the
gets his shit
argument
questioned by
now
Medica and
today
he doesn't make any
is
sense.
what
Someone called
is the
pest
point of
control. This
Leagues Cup
motherfucker has
if
rabies.
we have the
Get
Conca
this bitch
Champions?
neutered. You can't have this guy reproducing. Makes
Oilo,
no
oilo.
sense.
Hold on, hold on. I
Ay,
wanna.
pinches
Look.
huilas.
I'm gonna.
Let me just respond
Yeah.
to that Rifado point because that's such a like optimism in to the extreme. That just tells me if you that just tells me you don't watch American sports. Because if you watch the NFL and these other teams, they're not like these European conglomerates or these oil states that pump ridiculous amount of money that they obviously don't make obviously don't make in their money back in in those investments. Like when PSG bought Neymar, they didn't make that money back. 200 million,
I think they did.
they took a loss. These NFL owners, if it's one thing they do have, it is money. But they're not going to spend it on a goddamn soccer player.
So
If
you're proving my point,
if
because
the
what
players
you're
don't make
saying is that the infrastructure is really good here. Then that's great for investment. So I mean, this idea doesn't nullify what I'm trying to say at all.
oh, it absolutely does because
It doesn't.
you'll never see a soccer player make $500 million. You're never going to see that. Soccer players don't fill out 80 to 100,000 the thousand seat stadiums every Sunday like NFL teams do and college football teams do.
I
You're
mean, but
never
they
going to
could.
see that.
But
No,
they
you're
could.
never going to see that. Never.
Like if you compare numbers on a global scale between the Prem League and the Super Bowl, the Prem League wins.
How
But
so?
there's more people watching the Prem League.
From
Uh,
India and all these third world countries that they probably pay a bullshit amount on some TV deal that they have. They don't make
okay,
it. Florentino Perez already came out and said all the Champions League and all these Euro leagues, the main competitions, they don't make as much money as the NFL. That's a ridiculous argument. The
they
money
don't.
is never
But
gonna look.
Because the NFL
The
is a
only
closed
way
market. They don't
this
have any
dream
competition.
scenario, this only way this dream scenario you guys are painting out, whatever coming to fruition, is if the freaking another stock exchange collapse, freaking another great recession, and it hits strictly on the European teams. Like that's the kind of scenario you guys are painting out. The NFL is only growing, and the big Euro teams are only solidifying their place by getting more investments and more TV deals, big TV deals, and solidifying their place with with their prestige that they already have. You're never going to change that.
So,
A,
this
French
League Cup
player,
is part of that change in the sense that for the first time ever, all Liga MX games are on one provider, Apple. When has that ever happened? Never. So here we have like this like reforming of the league to to target a new audience here in the US to optimize that. And so
what
like
audience?
whether that'll flop or succeed, time will tell. But I'm just saying it's not an impossibility, and I think the execs are betting on this. Because we see that there is no short-term gain as far as like the monetary side is concerned. Chivas is getting a couple 100,000 per game, even though they're selling out seats. But like, if the long-term gain is to like grow the sport here in the United States, where the infrastructure, like you said, is really strong, then that's something that could have a great upside.
Also, so all right, let me just get this straight. So you're telling me as a fan, you're telling the rest of these guys, anyone in that's watching football, Liga MX right now, you're telling them, eat shit, get get used to being fucking losers, and 100 years from now, maybe that'll change. That's what you're trying to tell me.
Nah, I'm been trying to be a little more objective. Like, I certainly don't like that, Chivas and all these other teams are being embarrassed. For sure. I definitely don't like that. I think you're conflating like with how I feel with what I'm trying to do, which is an objective analysis.
Real quick, have somebody new wants to speak. Don V, welcome to the podcast. Your time to shine. If you have any input from tonight's episode, welcome. You're on mute, by the way. All right. So when you get it figured out, let us know. I do have Ron, who's finally back. Let's see if he's got some testosterone tonight.
What's the V stand for?
Nobody knows.
Don Benudo.
Oh, there you are, Don. Hey, welcome to the show. What you got for us, Mike?
No, I'm just hearing all the fucking nonsense that Ricardo's speaking. I thought he was leaving here. He had much to say because I thought he needed to get it out of his system because they were calling on him and he had to get off the podcast.
Huh? Come again, sir? Who was calling me? Your mom? What?
Relax, bro. Ron, what you got for us?
I'm a little hurt right now. I don't want to talk.
Oh,
Wait,
man.
¿sabías que te iban a coger? You didn't lube up before? Did you
Híjole.
really think you were going to win?
Hey,
Too
let,
much,
I'm
let
too
me
much.
just
surprised
say
que no
this.
te metieron todos los dedos.
That last argument you guys had in the last week's pod, those pro MLS guys, you weren't making any sense, man.
He's just repeating the same thing.
Hey, man, after the podcast, I'll send you a dick pic. Just wait, man, all right? Espérate.
It's gonna be as disappointing as your picture.
Who do you root for? So I can get an idea of what kind of creature I'm talking to.
Don't worry about it.
I'm, that smells like Chivas or a Chemo.
Oh, man. I want to know what you guys think of Aguirre and Rafa Marquez.
Oh wait! I just really quick before we transition to that. Just on Ricardo's take.
Let me hear it, Ho. I want to hear
No,
it, man.
güey.
Which is
Espérate,
your
güey.
whole
Joel,
thing.
call it what it
Your
is. On Ricardo's pendejadas.
Hey, prove me wrong then. If you're going to say that,
no,
prove me wrong. Show me your numbers and your statistics and show me your evidence. Don't just
no,
run
I'm
your
not.
dick sucker like you always
Anyway.
do. Because
It's
this
just your
guy
whole.
loves to suck off the MLS and he's always coming up empty-handed. He's
Yeah.
always picking against America and he's always missing the next podcast. Now go ahead, Ho. Let's hear what you
Señor,
got to say.
señor,
All
espérate,
right, here,
espérate. I
here,
know.
Go. Cállate los
You know what?
hocico.
We'll sidebar this one,
here.
but all I'm gonna say is
Ya
I
te
know
mandé
you're
a
not
chingar a tu
talking
madre, pendejo.
about missing episodes. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
You
Everybody who
picked against
listens
America
will
twice,
say
and both
this:
times you didn't show up, you little coward.
nobody
You little
will hold,
coward. You didn't show up twice.
no one will hold me accountable for missing episodes, much less you. All right,
You
ahora
so
sí, Joel, dale.
you didn't pick against America twice, and both times you didn't show up. Now go ahead, Ho.
Okay,
Don't let
ya,
this little
ya demasiado,
lesbo
ya,
don't
ya,
let this little lesbo
ya.
make you lose your thoughts. Go.
Sorry. No, no, it's just your whole take. You seem to have a too big to fail take with Europe, and it's I'm along the lines of Rifado. You never know what could happen, and one thing we've seen happening in Europe is that a lot of those clubs aren't even they're no longer owned. They're foreign owned now,
American owned. You're right.
but not just American, even oil money.
Yeah, oil
So
money.
what happens when for whatever reason they decide to pull out?
Wait, are you
You
gonna
know,
tell me Real Madrid will ever look? I can guarantee you this. I'll put
whether
my fucking head on it. The Premier League teams,
maybe
Real Madrid and PSG will never go broke. Well,
well,
I'll
see,
die. They'll
the
never
clubs,
go broke.
but see, they're
Y-
not dependent on themselves. PSG's money comes from Qatar,
Dude, y
and Real Madrid.
cuando se aburre
Real,
el sheik or the fucking
yeah,
oil
yeah, one
baron,
day he'll
¿a
be
dónde
like,
va a
"Fuck
quedar
you
el
guys."
equipo? It's gonna go to shit.
Yeah, same with Real Madrid.
when
Real
that day
Madrid's
comes, we'll
dependent
have
on
a
a bank.
conversation.
I don't know if it's
But
Santander, but they're dependent on a bank, dude. Whatever happens to that fucking bank,
I
there
don't
goes Real
disagree with you,
Madrid.
Ho. I don't
But
disagree with
I
you.
mean, but that's
But
why
you're going to the
it's like
extreme, man. You're trying to tell me that
no, it's not
there's going to be
extreme.
a second
That's
Great
just
Depression coming, man.
no. It doesn't have to be second. It's just shit happens all the time where technology changes or whatever changes, and the money, the you know, the way money moves changes as well, and it could be like we're going over here now.
It's like the Barca example. They were on top, tenían el dinero. Now some shitty planning from the directors. Están a la chingada.
Yeah,
Hey,
They're close
I
to being
love that you
bankrupt.
just said that. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm interrupting you, but
Go on.
I love that you just said that about Barca. What does that tell you about Barcelona then? They don't know
I,
how to manage money and they're fucking stupid, right?
It's not just them. Let's look at Italy, who was on
yeah.
top of the world 20 years
And
ago.
Oh yeah.
and they're broke.
Now they're
Now
broke.
tell me an American and a big enterprise or conglomerate or whatever you guys like to say that's gonna lose money like that and not pull out as soon as possible. When are they gonna take a 500 or $200 million loss like PSG did? That's never gonna happen. That money will never be thrown around like that over here.
So already we have ideas of the owners of PSG trying to sell the club because they operate at a loss for too long, right? It's not sustainable. And so like the market changing, that's normal. That's the only thing we can
Yeah.
count on, and so like this idea that they'll always be on top, I just don't buy it. And and I'm not gonna be like it's all gonna fail tomorrow, which is I think that 100-year thing happened because I used the World Cup as an example. 100 years ago, it didn't have the clout, the prestige it has today. That was built over time, and that's where that 100-year argument started. But I don't think it's going to take 100 years. It could be 30, it could be 20, it could be 50.
I'm
It
sure we
only
agree with this too, Rifado. Just because it's not happening now doesn't mean you don't start building for it or tour with it. And I think that's also what's been Richie's. Like he doesn't like that, but it's like you. I think it's very Mexican of you. It's more like what do we have now?
explain it to me.
Not
Why would
I
I
don't
like
want to.
it? Why?
No,
Trying
I'm
to
not saying you have
sell
to
it to
like
me.
it.
Why
You
should
don't have to like it. It's
me
more
as a
about
consumer? Why? How should I like that?
no.
Someone
You
trying to
don't have to like it. You don't have to like. It's not about liking it, but it's sort of like your take is why that's why it's negative. But
so
ultimately,
what?
you have to build. You have to build something like Champions League wasn't just Champions League. They started off as an invitational tournament. Eventually, became what it did, but it took years. So it's the same with any cup here. It's not just going to start off the bat being this great grandiose tourney. It's going to take time to develop and become better. So that's just the whole thing. Like you're knocking it down before it even grows.
And you're using an example for countries that soccer's their first sport. USA, you're using the soccer's growing. You're saying soccer's growing, which it is, but not to the to the to the extent that everyone's trying to make it out to be. But at the same time, you're not keeping in account that NFL and college football, it just keeps look. These
But
guys
look, this,
have had so many These guys have. There's been so many suicides, so many crazy stories with the NFL. People killing women, people killing themselves. These guys are going crazy with the amount of hits they have in their head, and even that will knock it down a peg.
well,
It only keeps getting better. It only keeps
but
getting
look,
bigger, man.
but it's like Dia said, there's no competition for NFL. It's just here. And this is the other thing to keep in mind. There's 300 million people here. You don't need to take those fans. You can make your own fans here. So the
Well,
money
that's
and the
another argument. I
population is
disagree with
here.
you guys.
But
You
look at
guys were saying
basketball. Look
that
at basketball. Basketball wasn't as popular as it was now. It didn't really grow till like the 90s.
because no, it grew in the '80s.
Yeah, but not to this point that it is now.
No,
It's
and
more
it's
like
losing money. You see owners selling the team because they're not bringing in money like they used to. Mark
I know,
Cuban just sold his
but they
team.
had their
The
boom.
Suns
But they
just
had their
sold their team.
boom. So I mean, I'm just saying this. It could happen here. I was like, nothing's guaranteed that it's gonna last forever. So it's the same thing with football here. You don't know what happens with the second World Cup, third World Cup in Mexico. That's a lot of growth. Even if you
Oh,
don't.
Now,
see,
hold on.
Cole's
One of the things that I want
backtracking.
to talk about.
Cole's
Hold on.
backtracking.
If you
Wait,
want
how
to
am
talk
I?
about the teams no longer filling up a stadium and why you're having to sell teams and this and that, is because the cost of live entertainment has gone through the roof. The
Yeah,
cost of a
it's
regular ticket is
and parking
ridiculous
too.
versus the price of an NFL Sunday ticket or whatever the fuck you want to
Just
call it.
wait, just fifty
The
dollar
price of live
parking.
entertainment is ridiculous. So yeah, people stop going to the stadium. If you own a team, sure. If you've already lived the boom, sell it. If you're looking to invest in a team, now might be the right time to do it. If you're looking to, hey, here's the key word, you dumb fuck, build something, now's the time to invest.
For 100 years from now, okay. A
I
hundred
mean,
years
how
from
long
now,
are you willing to hold on to a
I'm
team?
not. I'm not willing to hold on for shit. I'm trying to watch. I'm trying to be entertained now,
I
not a
know.
hundred years from now.
I know. Y por eso, güey, eres un pinche indio
But
y te
I'm not a
gusta ver
fucking
TV
necromancer.
Azteca.
You
Oh
can't bring
my
me
So
back.
no hay
I'm not a
god.
fucking
pedo,
zombie.
güey.
You can't bring me back from
No
the
hay
dead a hundred
pedo,
years
güey.
from now,
Eres un
moron.
pinche indio y no hay ningún problema. We need people to flip hamburgers. It's not a fucking problem. We
Well,
don't
we're
need
not talking about your
thinkers.
dad right now. We're not talking about your dad right now.
No way. My
Let's
dad's
stick
a
to the
carpenter.
topic. Let's stick to the
Like, I'm
topic.
gonna be honest. He knows more math than you do.
All right. Well, he doesn't have two houses like me, does he?
What does houses have to do with soccer?
Well, hey, we'll get this guy is running his dick sucker like I always say, and he doesn't make any sense. Stay on topic, Lesbo. Look, I was watching the Olympics and Algeria. They were being criticized because they had a he/she fighting a woman, and I think that might have been what's his name, Abdias on there.
Dude,
He was
I
beating
don't agree with
he was
that. I
beating
think
up
it's
a woman.
bullshit, you know? I actually
Eh,
had
güey,
that
por favor,
conversation
pide
today.
un nombre.
That's BS.
God, I miss you, Ricardo. I miss las pendejadas que
You're
dices.
obsessed. Well, hey,
Like, no, güey,
we're open to
es como cuando
dialogue. You
tienes a tu
haven't proven me
primito que
wrong
está
yet.
medio
You
pendejo y
haven't proven me
ciego.
wrong yet.
Like,
Where's your
lo ves
100
y
year
dices,
evidence,
ay, pobrecito, güey,
douchebag?
pero cómo me entretiene verlo tratar de hacer algo, ¿verdad? Tratar de abrir una coca, no mames, güey, es la mejor historia que te has
Hey man,
echado.
that guy in the last pod was right. Your fucking voice, god damn.
You're gonna hurt his feelings. You're gonna hurt his feelings.
Yeah, hey, you
No,
switch the
hombre, güey, ¿crees que
switch
eso a
the
mí me
topic.
duele?
But hey, you're not making any sense. All you keep saying, let's build, let's build, let's build. What are you trying to build? You're surrounded by banana boat countries.
I'm
USA will
trying
never
to
be.
build my
You want to build
confederation.
Libertadores? Are you trying to build Champions League? You're never gonna have that.
You know what? And I
Mexico is
said it
stuck
before.
where it's
I
at.
want to
They're stuck.
build
They're late to the party.
CONCACAF champions. CONCACAF champions is the prestige, is what we should be building. It's what this whole fucking charade
And
that
they're
we're
not
doing
building
right
it.
now. Hey, cállate los hocico, yo estoy hablando. Is this whole charade que estamos haciendo ahorita? It's what gives you a ticket to that. Right? So
The
where
League's
should we
Cup, the
be
one you said
putting?
that has more prestige than Liga MX, right? That's what you said in the last pod.
I said that it could.
It could. You're a fucking idiot.
If we
I'm done.
grow
I'm
it,
done with this dumbass.
it could. Now here's the problem with Liga MX. If we go back to a long season format, that's where we can really fucking bang our chest and say that we're the best league around
Nah,
and that we're
motherfucker.
this and
Your
that.
team sucks,
Give
and
me
you're
a
trying to
short
discredit
season
Liga MX.
format,
That's what you're
and
doing.
it's not.
Your fucking
No,
team
it's
sucks.
just the truth of
You
it.
get your shit pushed in, and you're tired of seeing it. So now you
Senor,
want to switch up the rules.
senor,
You know
on
what?
average,
You have a
on
loser
average,
ass
if we
history,
take
and your team sucks.
if we take the
Your
sum of
team
points
sucks.
during both Apertura y Clausura, Cruz Azul is historically amongst the top. Right? So that's an argument that I'm not making right now. It's just facts that I'm bringing up. Pero la cosa
Facts.
es
You've only won
when
one
we
title in
can
30
have it
plus years,
that
you
way,
fucking loser.
when we can have it that way, then we can truly say that we're a top league. You know
Yeah,
why?
bro, you
Because
root for the bottom feeder
espérate,
team, bro. Your
pendejo.
team fucking
¿Y sabes
sucks.
por qué?
You don't get to
Because
decide
this
what
short
has
season
prestige and what
format
doesn't. Your team
creates a
fucking
short
sucks, man.
mentality where we devalue the merit of our championship, where people forget who were the last champions, where there's people like
No,
you who just
motherfucker,
want
you forget
entertainment.
because your team doesn't win nothing. You forget because your team doesn't win a goddamn thing. Everyone else that does their job, that invests, uh, signs good players, and develops young players, they're always at the top. The losers like your team and the rest of Liga MX, they're always at the bottom.
Senor, my team is at the top historically, most of the time. My
Historically, you get your shit
team
pushed in.
never misses Liguilla. My team typically, unfortunately, ends up subcampeon. So if we're talking amongst the top dogs in this league, there's a reason why there's cuatro grandes. And
Nah,
Cruz
it's
Azul is
America and everyone else.
undisputedly one
But
of them.
say what you want, it's America and
Por
everyone
eso,
else.
güey, you have the Wheeler mentality. All right, so it's all good. So, ¿sabes qué, Jaime? Change the topic porque este güey está
Yeah, because this
pendejo.
fucker doesn't make no sense. Come on, Jaime, switch the topic, man. This guy's making a fool of himself.
Yeah, real quick. Tigres Puebla tied 1-1, 66th minutes. And yeah, the other story tonight was really about Javier Aguirre and Rafa Marquez. They're going to be officially unveiled tomorrow at 1 p.m. So, wanted to know what you guys think of this duo and Aguirre's initial conversation he had. They shared it. He talked about his mistakes, how in the his first go around against the United States, he made the terrible tactics, and he had put a lineup that hadn't ever been done in training. And then he also talked about how in that defeat to Argentina, he was embarrassed to face the press and refused to make eye contact with everybody. And he said he's looking forward to coaching the national team for the third time at home. And yeah, I just want to know what you guys think about that.
Uh, can I go back to what they were talking about?
Nah, go ahead.
I understand why the argument is made is that hey, you need to make your own competition better. You need to make it grow. I can understand it to a certain degree, but there comes a point where you can only do so much. You know, the saying that that the high tide raises all boats is true, but again, everybody has to be working towards the same goal, and unfortunately, Mexico and the Federation is in a fucking sea of minnows for one reason or another, whether they just don't have the economy for it, whether they're corrupt, And the truth of the matter is, the vast majority of CONCACAF federations are corrupt. The Jack Warner, Chuck Blazer, that was a symptom of basically of just the cesspool of crap that the federation, the Mexican Federation, had to deal with for 30 plus years. So I I made the argument last pod that in the region, the best knockout tournament in Concacaf is the Mexican Liga, and I don't think that you're going to get anything better than that. Even MLS, their playoffs. I just think that when it comes to talent, when it comes to excitement, the Liga MX Liga is the best in the region. Now, I can. You're never going to convince me that it's in Mexico's, or I should say that when I say Mexico, I'm talking about the federation. In Mexico's interest to basically forego better competition to grow, and help out all the other minnows in the area. Mexico's done that for a while. They've done it for a long time. In fact, even against their will. I mean, just the Concacaf, the powers that be used to. I mean, they used to exploit the Mexico, and for me that's always left a bitter taste. Um, but I don't see I don't really see the benefit of Mexico basically bending the knee to the Canadians and the Americans, um, because there's going to come a point where they're just going to use Mexico, and then after that they're going to do whatever they want to do, and you're starting to see that now. And I think the this I don't think that this is going to be an agreement where everybody it wins. It's not, you know. Um, I I strongly believe that Mexico's best years were when they were unwanted in South America, because those sort of conditions made the Mexican player uncomfortable. And when they were uncomfortable, it seemed like they were better prepared, or they got better prepared. That's why I say that winning the CONCACAF Champions League for 20 consecutive years hasn't done anything for Mexico. It's not bringing in more money. It's not bringing in more talent. They're not exporting more players to Europe. So, I mean, I think just for this, I think just for the sake of appearances, they should compete in Concacaf tournaments, but the bare minimum. I mean, don't. I mean, just compete in the Champions Cup, in the Gold Cup. But I would put my foot down and say, no Nations League, none of this other crap. I think that they need to basically they can still be good partners, but they need to take the initiative like they had been for 20, 30, 40 years, and improve on their own. And improving on their own meant seeking better competition. And I'm not just saying South America, but go to Africa, go to Asia, go play go play places that you normally don't. I think that was probably the best atmosphere that the Mexican player could improve on, and that's what they did for at least throughout my childhood. So I'll end with that.
All right, Aguirre, Rafa, guys, opinions.
I said it last week, man. I really think that for me it was either Aguirre, Tuca, La Volpe, or Piojo, and they couldn't. The guy obviously Aguirre has European experience. He's got a lot of European experience. Rafa Marquez, he's been for the last 2 years he's been working on the youth. Um, I feel a little better. I do feel a little better with Aguirre at the helm. Um, I'm not sure right now. I wouldn't say that they're a shoe in for getting out of the group stages and stuff like that. I kind of I want to see what Aguirre does, but I'm hoping
But
I'm
Ron,
hoping that
Ron, you're forgetting that it's 48 teams, that
I
Mexico
get
is seated and playing at Azteca Stadium. I
I
think
know,
getting
but
out of the group stage, even with Jimbo, it would have been achieved.
I mean, I'm hoping.
Because his team was made to look worse than it really was. I mean, if it had one redeeming quality, defensively they were improving. Three games at Copa America, they didn't get no goals on the run of play. The only one goal they conceded was a penalty kick. Um, I think
No,
that's what they're gonna.
you're right about that. And one of the things that one of the arguments that some pundits, like for example, El Dato Salazar has made is that Jaime, or what's his name, uh, fuck, what's his name, Coach Tata Martino got 4 points in Qatar, and then Jimmy got
Yeah,
4 points in Copa America. I get that. I understand that they did no better, no worse than previous coaches in terms of the points accumulated. But I think at the end of the day is that yes, there's been times where the Mexican team advanced into the latter, into the knockout rounds with 4 points, but it's how they played. That you can still tie a game and still play good football, but I mean, Tata Martino, I think he was just like a disaster. The last 2 years of his tenure was just
yeah,
a disaster. No ideas, no nothing. Jaime, unfortunately, Jimmy Lozano, I think he just came in a bad situation.
his attack was lackluster, but
But
we're always
I
gonna have that we're always gonna have that question. I think he'll eventually talk about it, like maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from
yeah
now, we'll eventually hear the truth. But I do feel like he was forced to leave out Henry and a couple players that I think were some of his go-to guys. I don't think that was his call.
Wait a minute, but I
no,
thought Televisa sent all the America players to the Copa America.
No, if you see the interview with he did it for was it for Caliente? Azcárraga did that interview and he voices disapproval on the way they let Henry out, the way they cut him off.
yeah, you're right about that.
And so that's the other thing where people will say
Espérate, wait, and
Televisa.
that's something that we want to point out. He was his whole thing was that he was upset of the way that they let Henry know that he wasn't going
Yeah,
to the league. You know how they let him know? By a fucking phone call, like regular fucking common courtesy. They called him and
well,
told him that he wasn't going. But that was his carga is starting to apply pressure of him not liking the way that things were being handled at nivel nacional.
well, it's also not just a phone call. It depends like
No,
what they
but
said to him.
here's
You're
this.
not
Okay,
invited.
there's it's a basically an it crowd. You know, the Liga MX. You have to be a certain, a compadre. You have to be, a family member. You have to be one of those to get those type of positions, right? And unfortunately, and you've seen it historically, and you see it now that sometimes the executives they're very arrogant and how they they I mean so I get the feeling that some of these look down on their players. Maybe because of socioeconomic statuses. I don't know. I'm speculating there, but sometimes the way they treat the players is just it's like it's not very professional. And like for Scott I got to say that publicly, I don't ever recall him ever saying something like that. You know, and like for example, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example right now with the Saboldi case, how the Tigres guys, basically dealt with what's his name, the two what's it what are the Tigres executives? I forget their name. They have the same name. Shit.
Mauricio Culebro and
Those guys, like those guys. I mean, I mean, I've heard and I've read so many stories of just like of basically the executives treating the players just like that, dude. Like they're just pieces of shit. And the coaches. I mean, just like remember. I mean, like I remember when America, that guy, what's his name, Diaz Barroso. the way he basically treated, the way he fired Ben Acker. You know, he fucking goes down and says, "Hey, Joaquin Del Olmo, we still haven't signed him. He still hasn't agreed with the what do you call it, with the contract. So you're not going to play him. So what is the hell Ben not going to do the next game? He plays him. Next thing you know, the guy doesn't even have the balls to say you're fucking fired. He fucking sends this goddamn, this gopher and over there in Guapa and say, hey, Senor Ben Acker, sorry, you're not allowed in here anymore. You know. So I I I think just seeing that type of stuff in the past 30 20 30 years. I mean, there's a reason why, we blame the player that they're not professional enough. But that also starts with, that's also at the front office as well. You have a lot of people in the front office at the national team and also at the club level that are very, very unprofessional. And that stuff, and that lack of professionalism, it spreads like cancer.
You know,
Yeah, and that was one of the interesting things exactly about that. Like you said, it was so out of character for him to like just so blatantly state something like that and state his discontent of the way things were being handled. That's why if you listen to reporters, they'll say that like that's the moment where he started turning the screws in the background.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
next thing you know, here we are. Now talking about El Vasco and Rafa, right? One of the things is, wait, ¿con qué pinches huevos Dulio Davino goes in front of cameras and starts talking about a new project? It's like, what the fuck do you mean a new project, my guy?
Yeah.
Like, how can I even trust you that this is gonna last?
You
So,
you
like,
can't.
call me stupid, bro, but I don't believe in this. Like, I know that it's gonna be forced down my throat. I know that this is gonna happen, but do I believe in it? No. Am I maybe gonna jump into the hype? Like buy into the hype? Of course, because I'm fucking Mexican and like it's my country. It's what I want for us to do. Like I said during what's it called? Copa America is I never hope for my national team to do poorly. Right? So I'm always gonna hope for us to do well, but I just don't believe in this.
so I just want to go ahead and add to what Abdias is saying. Like, I'm also on the doubtful side, and I want this team to do good. And I see the rationality behind appointing someone as decorated, someone who's been around as long as Aguirre, right? Who's accustomed to taking these bombero jobs. Because let's face it, this is a bombero job for his nation. So hopefully he treats it. I'm pretty sure he's going to treat it with the respect that it deserves. My issue is with his pragmatic style, his three at the back. I don't like the fluidity or the rigidity of the three at the back. I don't like that he likes to cede possession of the ball a lot. And it's all speculation right now because it's yet to be determined. We haven't seen how he's going to line up. And I do think he's going to do better than Jimmy. I thought Jimmy was out of depth. Um, I think he's going to do better, and I hope he does better because again, this is like Abdias was saying, this is my nation, and I've been a fan since I was 8 years old, and so I want them to do good, but I'm also afraid and not blind to the drawbacks of this man who failed twice already and kind of goes against the grain of what Mexico likes to do right now.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked with his self-awareness, like self-assessment of himself, talking about the two go-arounds that he's had with the national team, admitting his mistakes, and he's been doing this for a while now. And I think one thing that he has to offer that Jimmy clearly lacked was just the confidence, the swagger, and the overall like presence he has, whether it's in the press conference, which is something that the Mexican national team coach needs to have. They need to have a thick skin. They need to have some kind of riz factor, charismatic, right? They need to be able to control the press. And that is something that Tata was not very good at because he was a foreigner. And Jimmy was just a puppet, right? Let's just call it what it is. I think that's one thing that's going to instill with the team. He's going to have the players' backs. And I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air with some of these players who have probably have already experienced him. The only thing that I'm concerned about is if he ends up calling back his usual suspects. I don't want to see Ochoa anywhere near this national team. I don't want to see Conejo Perez near this team.
Wait, what's wrong with Ochoa?
Dude, we have already moved on from Ochoa. He doesn't even have a team right now.
Six times. Jaime.
It doesn't matter. He doesn't
times.
have a team. You cannot call him up to the national team. This is not like, hey, we're gonna bail you out of jail right now. He needs to have a team.
He could be playing marbles, dude. He shows up at the World Cup. We talk about like most.
It's 2 years away, and he doesn't have a team.
He doesn't need to have one, dude. He's that good. He's the guy for World Cups, man. It's like you could put him in a cryo chamber and then just freeze him for the World Cup and then put him back. But think of the most memorable goalie actuaciones is gonna be Ochoa, dude.
So Jaime, I think for me, I know Vasco wasn't the best option. I would have preferred somebody different. But I also don't think he's the worst option, in particular for what the federation's trying to accomplish, which is not to embarrass themselves this World Cup, right, while they're at home. But I think at the end of the day, we know what we have with him. I don't consider him a fracasado because he's done the same thing as all the coaches around, from 94 to what was that, 2018 did, right? That's the case, and all of them are fracasados, right? So again, not my favorite choice. He's there. We know what we have with him. He's got a Gold Cup coming up. The last time he had the squad, that's what he used to make sure that he could find a few extra pieces to put into the main group of players. Yes, right now we don't have that depth, but who knows? Maybe somebody pops up next year, right? A player or two. You just never know, right? Westcott just got shipped off to Europe, to Finland or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed to be very promising. You just never know. Rafa's role at this
Mr. Elbow, he's a bum, man. That guy's a bum.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he seemed all right, man. He went for a 17, 18-year-old, seemed okay.
He's 20 and he misses goals right in front of the goal, man. With no one around him, he misses goals.
Wait, who?
Well,
Westcott.
Oh.
Yeah. No, for me it's simple. I want the Mexican players to do well, right? So, but I understand your point, Ricardo, that he's not of your liking, right? So I'm looking at the Gold Cup. I assume that Marquez is going to work a lot more with Lilini, especially this first year, in trying to find younger talent. And listen, I mean, we sit here bitching and moaning about how they don't have a contingency plan. And while I agree with you, Mexico, the federation's not good about following through. I feel okay about Marquez being that the guy that's going to take over 2030. You just don't know, man. This is new territory for Mexico to be able to talk about having a coach ready for 2030. I'm okay with the way things are going. I'd have preferred a different guy to take over the team, but it's what we have. We have, and all I can do is do my best to support.
Who did you have in mind?
Boy, man, there's that part of me that was like I was sort of like at this point I would have liked a La Volpe or a Piojo, right?
Yeah.
Piojo would be he would be another good bombero. The problem is
I like La Volpe too, but he didn't convince me in his first stint.
What do you mean he didn't convince you? What the fuck are you talking about?
Because he never won a second round game outside of the one Gold Cup hosted in Mexico. Any tournament he played, he failed to win that second round. Aguirre, he got to Copa America. He made it to the final. Um,
What
Piojo did, in my opinion, because they both played Gold Cup outside of Mexico. La Volpe, he didn't make it, not even to the semis. Piojo, with a team that was pretty lackluster, ended up winning the whole tournament. So that was just kind of my thing. As good as he played, it's taking that white man can't jump when Woody Harrelson tells Blade Wesley Snipes, he tells him you rather look good and lose than look bad and win. It's kind of along that way. I don't. At the end of the day, I don't really care how Mexico's playing. If you could, you know, move the benchmark, play past that quinto partido, or do better than before, that's a win for me. I don't really care how you looked. I don't care if it, if you
so,
bunkered. Really not
And
gonna care.
I think the
what
other issue folks have with La Volpe is that Angola game, because I hear that all the time. But I
I
like La Volpe.
that's me. I was at that match. It was disappointing.
No, it was
That's
definitely.
and then also his club career. He just had like his, you know, as good as his teams played, they weren't that successful.
Right.
my concern with Aguirre, my concern with Aguirre is that against the U.S., Mexico got fucked over on a call. They should have had a penalty, right?
Yeah,
And
red card, and penalty in the first half.
and
It was
it
a
seemed to,
riot.
and the players, and the players were affected by that, And same thing in 2010 against Argentina when Tevez was like fucking 5 feet in an
Yeah,
offside position, and I was actually taking, I was there taking photos, on the pitch side, and I remember that the stadium people, they made the mistake of showing the replay on the screen, and then when they saw the fucking screen, I'm talking the players. I have pictures. I think I've even posted some of those pictures, dude, where the fucking just the players, Giovanni Torrado, those guys. I mean, those guys just fucking bombarded. I mean, the ref, dude, and like the fucking fans started just, "Pe puto ratero," and shit like that, but the thing about it is what kind of bothered me, or what I saw with Aguirre's teams, is that, and I don't know if I don't know if the blame should go towards Aguirre, but at least in his two stints with the national team, the way Mexico left, has left a bitter taste in my mouth, because
it
you're going to get bad calls, and you have to overcome it. And unfortunately, Aguirre's teams did not overcome it.
yeah.
They and
But his first round in '02 was brilliant, man. He beat 7 points.
oh yeah, oh
They
fuck
they
yeah,
they tied Italy with Italy like you know telling the
Italy,
Mex players too like
it,
hey
it,
let's just play a give and go. Let's
Italy,
just
yeah, Italy did what Osvaldo Sanchez did with the endurance, was like begging for, you know,
they were just not
begging.
classy about it. They were just like Osvaldo looked like a bitch. I'm sorry. It's like he's he just looked like a little bitch, man. I was like,
No, but
but
but but here's the thing with. I mean, I would have preferred La Volpe. I really would, because I think the way he had the team prepared. I mean, and here's another thing. I mean, Mexico also got fucking hosed on a call in Argentina in the '05 Confederations Cup. What's his name? The guy that fucking kicked.
Colochini.
Yeah, Cologin. Yeah, what were they
Oh
calling
yeah,
him?
he injures Morales, right?
Yeah, he injures
Oh,
Morales. That should
Barrett
have been a
Hoffman
fucking.
But
injured him.
but what were you saying about the back calls earlier, Ron?
I'm just saying that, like, for example, that I thought that La Volpe's teams were able to handle even those bad calls, And that's
But
really
they,
why that's really the only reason why I would actually
but
give.
they didn't handle the bad calls. They never won outside of Mexico. And I'm not using that same argument. They're going to be
I
playing in Mexico for the
I
most
I
part. So then
I I get
there's
it.
that.
I mean, trust me, I get it. But I mean, either or, I think both of those coaches, they're very well versed. I think they have tons of experience. And I think, as Codazos basically said, I mean, I think at this point it's just don't embarrass yourselves.
I would like to see La Volpe with the youth, a rematch with the. He took that team to the Olympics, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a group stage exit. But I wouldn't mind if he had another shot with the youngsters.
No, I mean to me, La Volpe, like, I get what you're saying too, but aside from that match at Copa America versus Brazil, when he played the like some of those top teams, he gave them all hell, man. He taught
Yeah,
Germany. He beat Brazil at Confederations. Uh, he gave Argentina all they could handle twice. I mean, it's one of those things where you want a coach who's going to make adjustments to make sure that your team is competitive, and you don't have to go toe to toe with them, but you're going to make the adjustments to make sure that you play a game where you can keep them in check, right? He gave them the opportunity,
I
and so
remember. I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying that. And again, the other choice was Almada, just because again, the ability to work with youth players. Although with somebody like Almada, I'd prefer someone like him get a long process, not a 2 year thing, right? But 2 years, give me Piojo, give me La Volpe. I'll be all right with that.
Speaking of years, I think I was listening to, I think it's Línea de Cuatro. They're saying the amount of time Aguirre and Marquez are gonna have with the team is like something like a month. Like if you add up all the days they're gonna have with the team and all the games, it's like a month of training.
Like a mini ciclo of some sort. Where are they, where are they going
Sounds
to?
like those 80s training montage where it's like 2 minutes with a kind of the Rocky montage. Just,
Hmm.
Getting
that's kind of what
stronger.
But but
that's
but
all, dude.
based on the way the schedule is set for Liga MX, where are they going to find that 1 month time? Are they going to cross into the
No, for
season?
the national team,
No, no, no.
they
It's
were just,
it's just an aggregate.
yeah,
He'll have
Okay,
an overall total of 1 month with them. Now
got it,
the
got it.
thing is, are they willing to, do that thing that La Volpe did so well, which is implement microciclos with the players that are in Mexico,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
something that we've talked about, that Mexico should copy that format, which is what France does at La Fontaine, right? You have your youth players come in, give them to me. Not even youth players, like, caliber players, give them to me 2 days out of the week, right? I need to train with them. I need to do certain things. We're going to polish certain aspects of their game. And then the rest of the time, yeah, use them as you wish.
yeah. That would make perfect sense, and I'm pretty sure the club owners would agree to it. Just because they've done it before. They've done it before for World Cups where they'll just let the players be with the national team, concentraciones and whatnot. Um, so I'm pretty sure they'll squeeze in another month of training in there.
So what you're
Maybe
saying
just
is that
play
so
clubs and
so you're saying that they should have a pro
I know you're
de
going with this.
a pro de 24. Is that what you're
It'll be
saying?
caliente.
A,
It'll be caliente this time.
a
It'll
pro de
be like in
26.
short steady. It'll be caliente this time around. But no, no more. No more mini. If it's a mini tourney, that's all it is. I don't need FIFA coming in 2 years later to say, by the way, this did count as a formal tourney.
So just to touch on the Memo Ochoa thing, the latest news is that he's on the cusp of joining San Diego in the MLS expansion team
Whoop de
in San
fucking
Diego.
There you
do.
go.
Of
So
course,
he
that
might have.
bum joins that bum ass team that's being created in San Diego. They're
But
building a castle out of sand.
I think
If
he's a
those,
media darling. He's a media
you know
darling,
if
and we can make history with him. So I think they'll take him on the bench. I think Malagon, it's his job to lose, and then we have other people that might come up or get hot. I don't really see any Mexican goalkeepers really getting down. I saw the Colombian guy today, Mir. I thought he was really good with his feet for Cruz Azul, but he's Colombian. I wonder if he's been
Oh, bro,
capped.
he's fucking amazing.
He
Like,
really is with
señores,
his
hay
feet.
portero. If you watch today's game, he put on a great show.
And then our boy in Athletic Bilbao, he's been looking pretty shit, and they subbed him out on his last game in the 76th minute.
Really?
So
which
I think his
That guy's
confidence might
awful,
be low.
man. That guy's
Yeah,
awful.
he hasn't had a good showing on the top flight debut.
Womp
Uh, but
womp womp.
we don't know who. Rangel might get hot, or we might get
I
another
I like
national.
Rangel, but he's got nerves, bro. He clearly, even with Chivas, he was looking pretty shaky the other day. I'm like, I don't know, man. But he's good. He's a good goalkeeper.
I haven't really seen him impress me with his feet so much yet, but he is a good shot stopper, and that's probably the most important piece. Some people will say that it's being good with your feet nowadays, but I'm not with that camp.
He's good with the aerial too.
And that's good. That's a weakness of Ochoa. He's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
scaredy cat when it comes to that.
Yep.
So, hopefully one of them pans out.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Now that I've heard Aguirre talk and self-analyze, um, I'm confident that he can give us a respectable performance in the World Cup. But what does that look like for you guys? What would be something that you can hang your hat on and be like, you know what, you had a respectable run in World Cup? Because to me, it's no longer the fifth game because the fifth game will be what, round of 16. So I think if Mexico at home, they should be able to replicate what they did in the last two World Cups they hosted, quarterfinals.
You would assume so, Jaime, but right now, again, the fact of the matter is they haven't found the talent yet, and unless you have that talent that you could put out there to be able to get you to that what would be the sixth game now, you're still stuck at best getting to the fifth game, and I think really that's what the federation wants, man, is to not
But
look like
realistically, where should the bar be set? Right? Is it the famosísimo quinto partido? Like, realistically, where do I want for my federation to be? I want for us to win the whole fucking thing. That's what I want. Is it
that's
gonna
not
happen?
realistic.
Jeez, bro.
No. So
That's,
therefore, where
that's
am
not
I really? No,
realistic.
hold on,
Put
let me
down the paint
finish.
cans, man.
Hey,
Put down the
hey,
paint
cállense el
You don't say
pinche hocico y déjenme
realistically and
terminar.
then
That's why I
mentioning
said
nonsense.
realistically, I want
That's the pedo way.
cuartos de final. Like, I want to win the whole thing. I know it's not gonna happen. Give me cuartos de final, way. Like,
but
that's my pipe dream right there. And
Abdias,
that's where the bar is set. I'm not willing to lower it because we have a shit crop. Yeah, we have a shit crop, so be it. But my bar is where it's always gonna be.
no,
Cuartos de final.
again, Abdias, when I was coaching, I coached to win. That's what I did. So I get a little disappointed when people set the goal at el quinto partido or something like that, right? It really pisses me off. When you go out to play in a tournament like that, you're going out to try to win, right? So it does bother me. That said,
I
the
think
only
Hey,
that I
Mr. Obo,
yeah.
were you more Coach Bombay for the Mighty Ducks or Coach Klein from the Water Boy?
uh, I took Klein's Green Book, man. Don't worry.
Oh,
you know what, Codazo, I think the whole fifth quinto partido, that's just media, and even to a certain degree, then also the federation
It,
bought into it, and
it,
then it's
it
just something to feed the fans. But I think it sucks because at the same time, it's like a limitation type of thing, kind of limit as to what Mexico can do. And I
Mhm.
think we've had the type of team to at least make a deep run, sort of like South Korea and Turkey have done.
Right.
There's been that talent, definitely. Just the bounce didn't go our way, or just little things here and there.
For
um,
for for that to happen, though, you have to have a coach that's when the scouting report on Uruguay is you beat them with speed, and you start who was it that start was it Guau and Bofo and was that
yeah, it was
2010?
Squall. It was
Yeah.
Squall, yeah. Not, I don't think Wolf.
So I mean, it comes down to that. And again, right now, so the quinto partido, I agree with you 100%. It's media push, but it also pisses me off when the federation puts it up as one of their goals in their stupid presentations when they're hiring a new coach or whatever, right? It's
Well,
the stupidest.
I do think, and I want to add to that because I do think that's where Federación messes up a lot because the media will, push these stupid agendas, and then the fans buy into it. And so, like we saw coming into Copa America, the whole cambio generacional, it's just stupid. And I would see these charts of like the top 10 teams, and then they'll have like one or two young players, and
Mm-hmm.
it'd be like some 16. But I mean, those were not your average 16, 17-year-olds. I mean, you use
Right.
that argument if you did have a 17-year-old that's at that level, but there's none. So it's just so stupid, and
It
it's
is.
just surprising for how the fans were reacting to it, and already hating on all these players for some supposed possible talent. It just didn't. No cuadraba, dude. No
Right.
cuadraba.
Hey, wait. It was a cambio generacional. We just didn't know that we'd be going backwards because we swapped out Jimmy for a fucking cadaver.
No, and generally, I would probably agree with Abdias in that you know what you want what the expectation you'd have for this Mexican national team is for them to do better than the round of 16, especially if you're at home. The situation is very different. Again, unless they can find some players that can give them that little extra boost, I find it difficult to get past a fifth game. Right?
Well, this national team hasn't really done anything. I mean, how 10 years maybe longer. That's they've done anything, impressive aside from like a, a group a group win at the World Cup over Germany, but not really won anything. I would say maybe the Olympics was the last time the Mex did something on a big scale. That was 2011. So that where you could say, okay, you could use that as a jumping point, but there hasn't been anything. And so
So we're
it's been kind of
overdue, is what you're
ridiculous to,
saying.
to, to have these big expectations for the national team when well, there's nothing to go off of.
There is something to go off of, and that's that this is a tournament, style knockout rounds that we're talking about, and anything can happen. Anything can happen. You said Korea. I think you mentioned someone
Yeah,
else, but
Turkey.
there's also Morocco and even Croatia to another extent. That's someone who we destroyed in the group stage, and they would
Yeah.
go on to get second place and then fourth place, I believe. And so, like in these style tournaments, anything can happen. To quote Chicharito, "Hay que imaginar cosas chingonas." I want to, but I'm also not blind to the defects, to the failures of my team. And it's been bad. We've been getting our shit pushed in by the U.S. And this showing in the Copa America wasn't anything to brag about. And the one light at the end of the tunnel that I see is the defense. That partnership was really good. And then if we look at Cruz Azul games, we look at Romo in the libero role. He's looking really good. Like I really like him. Like right now since his return to La Máquina. So like a backline of that. Add in Edson. There somewhere. We could be really solid with a guy as pragmatic and as like stoic. I want to say in his tactics. We can be, but like it's so against the grain from what we're used to. Jaime loves to mention how we are so uncomfortable without the ball. And so for us to drastically change what I believe, and a lot of us here believe, is Mexico's biggest weakness, and that's their defending. Them without the ball, they look so uncomfortable, in such a short amount of time, an aggregate time of 30 days. It's a lot to ask of. And so, I want to believe I'm going to be rooting for them. And I hope they do get down and do like a semis, a deep run or something, because it can happen. You're at home, anything can happen in these games, a bit of luck, and you find yourself in the deeper positions of this tournament. And so, I'm hoping for that, and I'm hoping for the Aguirre redemption arc, but I'm not going to put my house on it. And those are my thoughts on Aguirre.
Do you want to believe like X Files?
You can call me Agent Mulder.
Tigres ended up winning the match against Puebla 2-1. And yeah, that was some Leagues Cup action from Liga MX. Yeah, it's weird also how spaced out these games are. Chivas played on Saturday and they won't play again until Sunday. It's like you have like a week break. I don't know. I don't like these groups of three. It's just weird. And it looks like Mazatlan beat Nashville 2-0. Juarez beat FC Dallas 2-0. So we're getting some resurgence from Liga MX teams.
They did not get the memo to tank it. They don't care about those teams. You guys, you guys could make a run.
Ask me how many games I've watched from Leagues Cup.
How many?
How many, Rob?
None.
Yeah.
Surely you've seen some highlights here and there.
Nope, not even that.
I didn't even know they were playing today until Jaime mentioned it.
Yeah, I want to talk about Santi Jimenez. This guy was being hyped up by you guys quite a bit. And
no, don't include me, Jaime.
Not everybody here, but most of the people here. And what's going on? He's still at Feyenoord. He didn't end up having a big transfer this summer. How much of it was a factor due to his performance in Copa America?
I don't buy that. It just doesn't make sense. You go play a tournament with your national team and they play you in a different position or have you do something than what you're used to doing, and that somehow it's going to affect. I'm more into that. There was this one story, some Italian team was trying to buy him, and I think they were saying the representatives were asking for too much money. I think that's more along the lines of it. I'm willing to bet on that, but it's just what happens with players. Like some players can stay hot for a long time, and then some of them just cool down.
I think that's the thing. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. There has to be some truth to the fact that Copa America hurt his stock. Because
Hell yeah.
let's be honest, the way it was he was super hot his first season there. Then he had quite a bit of injuries, followed by bench time and all of that. So then he came back, scored a couple goals, didn't light the world on fire like he was expected to. Came over to Copa America where he was expected to be a starter, was a starter, didn't even fucking start a flame, much less set the world ablaze. So when he goes back, his stock has now severely tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, what can you really do? Right? So,
Look, but
a trabajar, papá.
if he was at that level where he had been scoring pretty much a goal every week, I guarantee you no one will give a shit what happened at Copa America.
Exactly. He's just not at that level anymore. Like,
Right, but that's what I'm
his
saying.
level
I
has
don't buy into
declined.
all. You look bad in 3 games. You suck. Right?
I mean, he did look
It's
bad.
just
I mean, but all the
yeah, but if you're a
expectation
scout,
was
you're
in those
getting a
three
bid on
games.
really if you're a scout for another club and that's what you're looking for, and with a club that with a national team that has been lackluster in attack.
I mean, I'm not in charge of that one. That's just generally what it was. It was all the hope was on Copa America, right? All the conversations were is Santi's gonna show up for Copa America? We need Santi to
Yeah,
show up for Copa America.
but to me, just the media, like just talking point. I don't.
Yeah, but
I don't see if
nonetheless,
you're a scout, you're going to
much
use that. That's going to
less.
be your.
Joel, Copa America is pretty highly scouted, so
Yep.
I think
It
maybe it
is.
hurt him.
It is, but a player like that's not going to just. You're not going to just go off of 3 games. You
No,
know,
no,
you're going off of
But it,
a bunch
yeah.
of games. There's just a lot of things to go off of to be like, oh, he looked bad against Venezuela. When he scored against Inter, he's looked good against the European teams that he's going to be playing against in Europe.
yeah.
Who gives a shit how he played against Ecuador?
The sun shines on the dog's ass every once in a while, and that's what happened with him.
I haven't heard that
You
one.
guys are acting very nice and beating around the bush.
No, I
He's
do.
the Argentine beaner version of Josie Altidore. I said it from the beginning. But you guys got very defensive.
Oh.
Hen- que Televisa this. It's Henry's fault that he's not starting this and that. And as you can see, the numbers are speaking for itself. The guy doesn't show up. He's a Eredivisie Dutch Fisherman League super all star.
Damn.
He's like an MLS all star.
I
That's what
couldn't
he
have
is.
said it better than myself, man. Because I used to always bring up Josie Altidore when everybody was creaming their pants against Santi
Josie.
and the season he was having at Feyenoord. I'm like, bro, Josie was the top goal scorer in this bum ass league, and but you guys like, no, it's Santi, and like,
He's a next Suarez. That's what they were saying. He's
yeah,
just like Suarez. He broke the 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 record for most goals in a season. That's what they were saying.
So
I sure.
I just want to clap back a little bit because not to shit on goals he always score, who was a flop, but
Well, you're
Santi.
one of the ones hyping him up, huh?
I mean, well, let's look at the facts. This guy did really good with Cruz Azul, and
No,
I
he
know we
didn't.
all
No,
respect.
no, that's false. He wasn't good at Cruz Azul.
Yes, he
He
was.
always played second fiddle to
So when
Cabecita.
he left, he was the top scorer in the league. I think he was tied for like I don't know
What was
six
it?
or
The first
seven.
3 weeks he left.
He
Can
left.
you
He was
recall
hot,
which teams he scored on?
and
San
he
Luis,
got back.
Tigres, and last minute, and Puebla
I don't remember that far, but I do remember that he was hot for a while and then he was
against
cold.
those three teams. I'm telling you.
So he got cold at the tail end of the season, and I think that's affected his sale more than anything, more than the Copa, more than anything else. Basically, he got a little cold at the end of the season, and that's what's holding him up. But the transfer window isn't closed. He could very well still leave. I
he
think
can.
Feyenoord is asking a lot. I think they want 40 or 50 million euros for him, which is a little pricey for this guy
So
who's kind of
are they posting on Liga MX? They're not going to get criticized like the Liga MX owners for overpricing their talent.
I think I think they should be
But
criticized
let me see.
for
No,
like
see,
asking too much because I don't think that's the market value for this player.
yeah, but see, it's no different than like it is for them, and because it's like we might not be able to get another player right now, at least to match this guy for the time being. So we're not going to let him go as easy. So, but it's kind of the same. But you're not going to see the Liga MX media talking about they're holding him back. Instead, is he looked bad in Copa America.
So,
What are you saying,
It
Joel?
has to be that.
What are you saying that Dutch team shouldn't sell him for pennies just so they could be branded as a as growing Mexican football, or like what are you trying to say,
Yeah,
man?
no, just showing the bias of the Mexican media, where if it's like Pachuca was getting offered something lower than what they value the player, and they didn't sell them, where it's like, oh, you're holding the player back because if it's a league better than the Dutch league, you can make the exact same argument. But
Oh, the whole you're striking back at the jóvenes aztecas, their agenda. I see.
yeah, the media in general, where it's like, if you're gonna make that criticism, do it across the board. Don't just.
To respond to Rifalo, I do agree. Like the transfer window is still open. Still have like another month, right? And his stock went down. He peaked in the winter transfer last season. I was looking at transfer market. He was that when he was peaking at
Did he get injured
50
there,
million.
Jaime?
He what?
Did he get injured around that time? He
Uh,
suffered like an injury.
all I know is
He did. He had
Feyenoord
a muscular injury.
Feyenoord was not going to let him go in the middle of the season, and I think that was their mistake because uh, you get to the summertime and he's not worth yesterday's price is not today's price. But they still, they saw that 50 million. They're like, oh, we're not going to let go of that, even though that's not what he's worth now. And unfortunately, Copa America was a deciding factor. I think a lot of teams like he was rumored to Spurs and he was rumored to Milan, and I don't know how much how many legs those rumors had. But I think after seeing his Copa America performance, like, dude, we can find somebody else
I
much younger and much better.
really those 3 games. Unless I hear it from a scout from one of those teams say, yeah, he let the selection down. We just can't bank on that. I'm not gonna buy that, man.
But
You get scouted thoroughly. You're not gonna get scouted for 3 games.
Hey, Joel,
They'll scout you.
but if someone's
but
trying to sell you for 50 million, don't you think he should be scoring at least one goal in the Copa America?
No, I think your performance overall. I think they're gonna judge it more how he's doing in the league. How you're doing on your week to week, not on the national team where you go every other month. But
That's true, but how many players
He wasn't
have
even
had
playing that.
showcases with these tournaments, like James
I mean,
at the World Cup and others?
well, the world because that was the World Cup, and then that was like the whole hype of like the World Cup, where Real Madrid buys him for all that money. But Copa America's
I do think that again, yes, it's 3 games, but when you have some of these European scouts who are thinking of paying a high price for you, and they see you can't score on Jamaica, and uh, and and to them they probably think Venezuela and Ecuador are just middle of the run teams, right? So if they're not seeing you score against teams like those, they're probably going, okay, maybe we should second guess how much we're going to pay for this guy. Now, I think tactically, Jimmy wasn't the right guy for him, but again, he also needs to be able to produce in situations like these with teams that are at your level or beneath your level, and I think Santi, and I'm a supporter of his. I think he failed. He failed in that. I think he would have highly benefited off of playing next to Henry Martin during this tournament.
One of the things is like, come on, Foyle. You can't tell me that you keep saying, okay, I need to hear from Scout. I need to like see scouting reports and this and that.
I want to hear
You
their
mean to
logic
well,
because that's their job.
hold on. You mean to tell me that once again, after everything that we told you, that he wasn't doing that well in the league, he was coming off of an injury, he was having
Yeah,
all of these things happening, and then across, yes, granted, these 3 games, he doesn't perform well, bro. Shit builds up, all right, and now you have to cut your losses, or at least you have to reassess your value.
yeah, as a
You
whole.
can't
But see,
keep asking for the same
that I
thing.
could buy into that. I could buy
Okay,
into
but yeah, the
the whole,
fucking
but not
clickbait
just
is
because of
we
the
had a
Copa
bad
America thing.
performance in
Come on.
Copa America, but that's just short mindedness. Bro, I'm not gonna, unless you read deep into the article, then you're gonna see, okay, he points it out. But in the clickbaity world that we live in, like all that it says is Copa America gave us a bad market value, which is true. It's an oversimplified explanation of what happened.
I called it a long time ago, man. I don't really rate Santi like that, and He's an okay striker. He needs a lot of support, and we don't have that support.
That's the big thing. And you know what? Look. I'm a bigger man than most, and I'll say it. You you're right, Ricardo. Right? He did
What
play
was that?
second fiddle. You know what? Go eat a dick. But
No,
he
I
did
didn't
play
hear. I didn't
second
hear.
fiddle. He did play second fiddle to Cabecita. That
Okay.
was his role there. I've always said it. He plays best as a falso nueve. He's not your hombre gol. He is your referente. So if you want, you can have your descastador. Santi plays a completely different role.
No, you guys wanted in the start because he scored against Panama and all that, and that he was the
I
second
wanted
coming of
him to start
Suarez,
because he's young, and we
and
need some fresh legs up top
those fresh legs didn't do shit.
yet.
No, they didn't do
I'm not
shit.
writing him off.
I am.
I'm
He's
not writing him
done
off.
for.
He's not. He's
I
young
don't
enough.
give a fuck what you say or what anyone else says. I don't give a shit. He's playing
I
in
know. We
Dutchland.
all know you only care
Henry
about the
Martin is
voices in
better
your
than
head.
him, and he's playing in Mexico,
Henry Martin is old as shit.
and he's better than
So by that
right now.
logic, he
He's
should be better than
he's
him.
old as shit, and
And unfortunately, he's
he's a
playing in
better
Mexico.
striker for Mexico right now.
But the beauty is that in Mexico, he's still considered a promesa joven.
Also, because he didn't leave, he's a bum, right?
No, just because he's old as shit, he's a bum.
Martin is going to be like 33 in 2 years. Like, his stock could plummet.
Well,
You know,
I'm not arguing that. I'm saying he's a better striker than Santi, and I don't care how old he is. Right now, he's a better player than him.
I agree. I agree.
And Henry, he extended his contract.
He did. I think he's getting paid $3 million a year,
Damn.
and Santi's over there fishing for fucking on the dock, part time working when he's not playing.
I got a
He's a
question for
fucking
you.
bum.
We haven't really heard too much about America's off season. What's going on? I know you guys are offloading a lot of players.
This is true. I think there's a lot of moving parts. Like I said earlier, when you have good players, everyone wants to take them away from you. I know you guys don't understand that because you guys root for Chivas and Cruz Azul, and no one wants you guys as players, so you don't have to worry about that.
Damn.
I'm ball busting, but I think some guys already did what they had to do with in the club, but at the same time, like I said earlier, certain certain teams aren't gonna sell just to sell. For instance, Brian Rodriguez supposedly got an offer to go to play for his hometown team up Peñarol, but they offered $1 million. I mean,
Damn.
If that was Cruz Azul, I mean, I guess because that's what they did with that bum Westcott. They just offloaded him for chump change, right? But when you pay money for players, you at least have to get something close to what you paid for, or a little bit more. And I think that's the mindset they're taking right now. They got some players that they probably want to keep, but they can't. And they probably also have some players they have in mind, but at the same time, they're not gonna. They're not if the business doesn't make sense, they're not gonna spend stupid money, just like Cruz Azul did with that guy Toro Fernandez, just because they needed a player.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah,
heard that y'all couldn't get Cesar Montes.
I seen that
or
Fabrizio
Pavon
reported that.
or Pavone.
Who?
Pavone from Cruz Azul.
Oh,
Rem-
Biovi.
Remember? Yeah, yeah. Remember, like Jaime, don't you have that clip of that kid, that Cruz Azul kid being pissed off that player didn't, Cruz Azul player didn't stick around?
Yeah, I do have it. I don't have it on me right now, but yeah.
See, that's an
And
interesting player because I remember when Anselmi. I remember when I came on this podcast and I told Abdiaz El Joto that Anselmi was a good coach. I seen him in his his Sudamericana run with the Independiente del Valle, and he had some good players on there. He tried to bring some, but they were they were over. They couldn't afford them. Like they had a goalkeeper, I believe, that fell through, and he brought Piovi, and I seen online all the Sudacas. Where'd he come from? Vélez or Racing? One of those teams. I think Racing, and they were saying that he pretty much called him a. They were just celebrating because they were calling him a bum. But then you see him play in Mexico, and it goes to show you. I mean, and just like Rondon, they were calling Rondon a bum, and he came over here and he lit the league on fire, man. Like you never know what you're gonna get with those players, you know.
So just to touch on Brian Rodriguez, he's rumored to go to Italy with Caceres, and he's also rumored to go to a Brazilian team. I think it was Fluminense. And so yeah, he's got like one foot out the door right now. And then what's it called? I think Valdez is still kind of injured, right? He's not at 100%. I
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think the three campeon is going to happen this time around. But who knows, man? They got money. You know, they make some profits. They could do well. You know, Jardine has proven to be a good coach.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll get the three peats, and the team is kind of going downwards. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm curious to know how serious they take this league's cup.
I told I told you guys that a couple months back about the thing with America. After they win championships, it's like their team gets this. I mean, they start within a year or two, or actually less. You start seeing the team being dismantled. It happened to Piojo, in 2013, uh,
2018,
2018. I mean, you had basically Guido Rodriguez. You had what's his name, the Colombian guy,
Marchesin,
Marchesín. You had the other
Uribe,
Colombian, yeah, Matias Uribe. You had Diego Lainez and stuff like that. So you started to see that, and I
Edson.
said, and I told you guys, America can get they can win the three-peat, but that really depends if on the roster. If they're able to maintain that vertebrae, that back line, I think they can do it. But if they get rid of a lot of key players, I'm thinking shit wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But again, I still think they're contenders. Uh, I still think that they're contenders and stuff. I mean, I did see some of the games for league games. It started off a little rusty. I didn't watch the first game, but I did watch the other ones. A little rusty, but then after that, they started to get into a good rhythm. But not having the full roster, and then some injuries, and then some of the players leaving and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting. Um, but right now, I still think that they're the best candidates to win the championship, the league. Um, so hopefully they can do it. At least for me.
Hey, hi, man. In regards to Cesar Montes, I always thought his ceiling was Liga MX, man. I personally, I seen one of his games with Espanol. I mean, I don't. He's just like a. I'm not gonna say he's Nestor Araujo,
I
but
think it's his
to me,
physicality, right? The fact that he's tall.
these tall, they got these tall center backs just like him, Diego Reyes, Massa. For whatever reason, these guys just don't pick up a fucking dumbbell and maybe load up on some calories, man.
Yeah.
And they always end up looking like fucking twigs when they're playing against the big black guys, you know.
It's funny you mentioned Master Rodriguez because there was a World Cup qualifying game. Um, I want to say I don't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was against Trinidad and Tobago or Dominica. I remember that that team from the Caribbean that I think the total population of that country is like 60,000. And you could fit everybody in Aztec Stadium, you know. But I remember, this amateur player, semi-pro player, was making Massa Rodriguez look like a fool, and like it took me a while. It took me a while to agree that Massa was a national team player because I think that many reasons. One of the reasons why he got called onto the national team is because of obviously his size. And he was taller than most defenders in Mexico,
Yep,
but he really did lack early on in his career technical abilities, you
he
know,
did, and
and
he used to get made fun of for that, even at Chivas.
so yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that because I used to call that out, but then Joel and the other Chilla hermanos would fucking would get upset at me, and then they would kick me out of the chat room. Those fucking
I to me, when Cesar Montes came on the scene, I thought that he was a promising prospect, and unfortunately, he fell into the trap of Rayados and them not willing to sell him. And I think he kind of like missed his time to go to Europe. I think he could have left a lot sooner, and he probably would have benefited from that tremendously. But he ended up going, and he's been okay, right? Like, didn't he get relegated with the team already? Or am I mixing my players up?
He was relegated twice, once with Almeria and once with Espanyol, and he went for like 10 million euros, and so that's
Yeah,
a lot for someone like Almeria, and so that's why they're not budging with the low ball offer of like 6 or 7 million from America right now,
yeah, that's
It
because
true.
was euros, Mr. Rifado. It was euros.
yeah, that's what I said. No,
No, you said million, just million in general.
Hey,
oh, okay.
Ron, if you have a gripe about El Masa and all that stuff, abre hilo on the Chivas chat, man.
will do. They
Uh,
kicked me out, guys. They kicked me out of that chat room, fuckers.
yeah. All right. Well, what other players are inflated? Chivas did a lot of noise in the offseason. They hired a lot of rejects. They got somebody from America.
Two guys from America.
Who? Oh, Gobea.
No, all three. Oh, three guys. Thanks for bringing that guy up. I almost forgot that. I don't remember all the rejects America sent you guys.
Who was the
There
other
was
one?
Govea, that Bruce Shirari or whatever, the
Mari
El
or
El
Lasbani or
Masari,
whatever.
El Masari or something like that.
Yeah, and the left back that America almost never used,
who?
Mauricio Reyes. But I think he's in your guys' like youth like
Oh, okay.
setup. I don't
Hmm.
I haven't kept up.
Yeah, and it's funny because they haven't been featured at all. Not even in the league. Not even in the Leagues Cup. I did see one of the guys that came from an MLS team. I know he played a couple minutes the other day, but for the most part, I'm like, what are we fucking doing here, bro? We like quantity or quality. I'd rather have quality. And there's something that I learned. I forgot who was talking about it, but it was on the podcast, like La Volpe podcast, that like they'll bring in players that like the sporting director will bring in players that the coach does not want. And I didn't realize that like the sporting director calls the shots when it comes to signings, and like they may or may not take into consideration the coach's opinion. And I think that's so backwards, right? Because like at the end of the day, it's the coach's job to start those players.
I think it
Well,
goes
what
roughly like this, where where you make a list, the coach makes a list of what he needs, like what sort of intangibles players that he wants, and then like they draw up a list of who is on the top and who's on the bottom, and so that's where these buys happen, where like they're like, oh, this guy's got this intangible, let's bring him in because we can afford him, and maybe it's not his first choice or his third choice, but fourth or fifth, and I think that's what's happening a lot at Chivas due to their budget issues.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because we saw that happen with when they brought in JJ Mack to Getafe, and the coach didn't fucking ask for him. And you've seen that happen quite a bit, and you're like, damn, dude, like you would think that they would coordinate at least a little bit. And
Well,
yeah,
one of the things that I would like to point out is in Europe and in Mexico, just like any place else, your your sporting director isn't as likely to change as your head coach,
I see.
right? So your institution doesn't change as often as your head coach does, especially in Mexico, bro. We fire a head coach in week 3. Chinga, se me hinchan los huevos, maybe even week 4. We'll see how it goes, how much I'm willing to take. So why bet on the players that a coach wants versus the players that the institution is willing to bet on? That's
Yeah,
one of the things that Pachuca has done very well is that they put the needs of the institution over what the coach wants. That's why Almeida it gets like such a fucking dick flute solo is because he's forced to work with kids. When he has a decent player, it's guaranteed that they're gonna sell him off. Like all these things happen because that's the way that club works. The club functions over anything else.
yeah, no, I get that. I understand that, like, you shouldn't take orders from a temporary employee. But I mean, that's such a backwards way to think, especially if you hire a coach and you're like, we're gonna, put a stamp on this and we're gonna support his project, but then you don't give him the artillery to do that. It just doesn't make sense. And I know that's one of the reasons why Bielsa like left. Was it Marseille or?
Welcome to Mexico.
Yeah,
That's all
But
I'm gonna
isn't
say.
Chivas the exact opposite to that rule? They literally, because they're so broke, they literally have to get what they could afford, and they instead of trying to find players that they can fit to the coach's scheme, they have to find they have to miraculously hope that there's a coach that that finds a way to succeed with the players they can afford. Like you're never gonna see a Simeone come like that situation where he's just in charge. Bring me this guy, and this guy, and he has like a big budget, you know.
hmm
I mean, because if supposedly if Gagos, you really think he picked out all these players that play for Chivas? You think he didn't see the rest of the Liga MX teams and Mexican players in general and say, you know what, maybe I like him, but you know what, Chivas can't afford him, so they bring a MLS reject, right?
Yeah, it depends the club and the GM. So some some will allow like and depends the coach too, how much pull you have, and so they'll bring in some of your guys. So it's a mix of things. I think Chivas has been operating where the club brings in who they think is going to be useful, and they don't really they're not going to really if you're the coach, you're coming in knowing that you're not going to get players that you want. Um, so yeah, I guess it depends the club. It's more varied now.
for sure, folks. Well, look, we're at the 2:20 mark. I didn't have any other thing on the docket tonight. We still have to go through this League's Cup for a couple more weeks. I'm curious to know if a lot of these Liga MX teams exit early, will they reinstate Liga MX? Because I know they tried to do that, but we'll have to see how this all pans out. Of course, want to give everyone their opportunity to have their closing thoughts.
I'll go first. So, out of the big teams that have played so far, Cruz Azul seems to have been the one who wanted the win the most, who took the game the most seriously. The game got chippy. Honestly, Dita should have gotten a red. I fucking love him, and sabes mi pinche negrote chocolatado. He's the shit. But the thing is, wait, every now and then, se le bota la canica, and he goes out there to fucking murder somebody, and I love that. Like I don't have Chuy Corona anymore, so now I have him, but he scares me because
Hmm.
he's prone to get reds. So if you watch today, Like he came in, shoved luego los pinches uruguayos de um, pinche Rotondi and Nacho agarran a I think his name is like Westwood or some shit like that from Charlotte, and they start pulling him to the point where they tear his jersey, like completely torn. Beautiful shit. So Cruz Azul held the banner up highly. Unfortunately, they lost. They shit the bed on penales. So Charlie, unfortunately, I'm starting to come around to the idea that he in fact is overvalued because no mames way to miss a simple penalty that way, you're a fucking idiot.
Shit, you're just
So,
realizing this now? Come on, dog.
¿sabes qué, cabrón? Go eat a dick tú también. But ah, that's it. If if Liga MX is sandbagging this, it's a beautiful way to silently protest all of this, but I don't think we're that well organized. Let's just be honest. I don't think La Liga is. It's every owner for themselves, and that's the way the cookie crumbles in Mexico. Other than that, ¿saben qué putos? Los odio y nomás para que sepan, les faltan manos para que me la pelen. So,
Oh my
chinguen a su
god.
madre.
Who hurt you, dog? Who hurt you? Who's next?
I'll go. I've personally, I don't give a shit about the League's Cup. Like I said earlier, it's a glorified Interliga. Anyone hyping up has the MLS agenda, and you know who you are. Joel, El Joto de las Diaz, El Mr. Rifado, and others. But it's surprising. I've seen the what's his name, the Siboldi scandal, and
Oh yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I heard the Rafa Ramos's take on it too. It's interesting that they were talking about how you guys was that guy's Peckerman, the Colombian coach, the
Mm-hmm.
one that coached in Liga MX.
Yep.
He coached at Toluca and at Tigres, and he actually sued them for and won because they supposedly they didn't pay him. And me thinks that for all the Cemex credit that they get, all the money they like to throw around, I don't think these guys like to paying their coaches that much, including Tuca. And if you take a look at their roster, they've been keeping the same. I mean, Piojo said it. They got an old roster. They bring in the America rejects here and there to try to even things out, but something fishy's going on there, and I
Yeah.
think that they're definitely an equipo chico. Will always play, always be America's bitch, just like Cruz Azul. But I wanted to take a step towards the Olympics. I don't know if you guys have been watching
Little bit.
a little bit. I actually got disgusted by that display that goes to show that
Which one?
opening ceremony. It goes to show you how ass backwards and it's such a that's why they lost to that's why they gave up to Germany in like what was it 2 weeks in the Second World War. Big group of homo. France is just besides their football, they're just a big group of homos, and they're just a disgusting country. I had the opportunity to go over there to after high school, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna like it, and I was right. My people went over there and they told me it smells like shit. LGBT activity. It's a disgusting place. Or you guys can give them credit for all their football accolades and whatever, but to me, that's a loser ass country. But I just wanted to, because I wanted to mention boxing, because besides soccer, boxing is my second love. Growing up,
Yeah.
just watching boxing with the family, going to like flea markets. I remember going with my pops, and there was this Asian guy. For I don't know how he did it, but he always found the on VHS. He had like the fights on video, like
Mm-hmm.
from Europe and fights for like fights they wouldn't show on HBO back in the day or Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time specifically we got the Pacquiao fight, and it was strictly in Asian. Like I mean, they're in Filipino, and he got knocked the fuck out. And I remember the guy telling us he's gonna fight Barrera soon. He's gonna beat him, and lo and behold, he knocks out Barrera. But in regards to the Olympics, I just think, and I think you could take like this kind of like intertwines with like Mexican football too. In regards to Mexico, I think just the Mexican athlete is disgustingly out of shape. Just no, like it's not a coincidence that you always see the same countries in the medaling.
Podium.
China, USA, and it used to be Russia, but obviously they're freaking dope heads. Everyone knows that. China too, but they get away with it for whatever reason. But Japan and Brazil are always there, you know. And I was watching a boxing match with this Mexican girl, like a bocha, right? I seen her brother is like a pro, and I seen him fight. He wasn't nothing special, but he got beat up. So I knew who she was. Her body just, she looks like she fucking scarfs down hot Cheetos, fucking has the Maruchan soups, like scarfing them down with a big Coke. It goes to show you, man, the Mexican in general is not built to succeed in sports, man. That's
Hey,
my hot take.
don't
From what I
disrespect
see,
Andy the Warrior, bro. He won
oh,
a
he's the exception, man. He's the exception.
yeah.
I called that upset too. I called that. But besides that, you guys have a good night.
Hey Ricardo, thanks for joining us tonight. Who's next?
Jaime, I'm gonna stay with the not watching that tournament due to total lack of interest, man.
Yeah.
It just it does absolutely nothing for me. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything for me. So I'm just gonna wait for Liga MX to come back and hope to see what Chivas does and see if this rumor of Gago going to Ecuador has any legs to it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I have no interest in this. No interest in this at all. But at some point, Ricardo brought up something good, man, and I know he's a bit younger, but shit, man, I grew up the early days of Chavez, and you know, as I got a little bit older, I was also collecting fights and stuff, and look back at some of the old Salvador Sanchez fights, and if anybody hasn't seen that old guy fight, man, whew, that boy can go.
He died, right?
He died. He was 23 years old when he died. He hadn't
Yeah.
even hit his prime. Hell of a fighter, man.
Word.
But yeah, man, that might be a subject we might have to bring up at some point is boxing. Yeah, especially with the young folks, man, who actually keep up with some of the newer guys that are out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, thanks again, Jaime.
Yeah, Elbow.
Excellent.
Hope you're doing
Excellent
well, man.
time. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Totally forgot about the Siboldi thing. You know, he went on Twitter and posted a 4-page document about what happened, dropped some names, and demanded evidence from Tigres from all the accusations that Tigres have said. And Tigres responded, and honestly, I'm just like, damn, bro, like somebody's guilty. But it's interesting to see how Tigres have treated their managers. You know, Ceboldi, Piojo, even Tuca, right? Like it's interesting to see the reoccurring patterns from the front office. And then as far as the Gago rumors, I posted it in the Chivas chat today that he has been associated with becoming Ecuador's national team coach. But I don't know, it didn't come from the most credible source, and I always take that with a grain of salt. I always think it's coincidental when things are happening at Chivas or whether they're good or bad, and all of a sudden you hear a rumor of the coach leaving. It happened with Paunovic when shit was going down with him and Pocho, and all of a sudden Fabrizio Romano tweets something about him going to Granada, and yeah, I just thought it was a weird coincidence. With Gago, I think he's probably frustrated with the limitations he has at Chivas, and I'm pretty sure he's feeling that. Depending on how this season goes, it might be his last because they have that short leash at Chivas. They demand results, and yeah, that's why I'm surprised they're doing so bad in League's Cup. Anyways, who's next?
If I may, I'd like to give my closing thoughts. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier about this League's Cup. You know, the results they're diluted or they're conflated. I mean, by the format. Oftentimes during the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Mex teams go to MLS and they'll get a tie or they'll lose by one goal and then they'll come home and they'll blow their shit out, right? And that just doesn't happen here. And even if they tie, like in group stages, like in the Champions Cup, what's it called? Like it just ends as a tie. But here, like you're set up where you have to go into this penalty shootout, in front of an away crowd. It's all geared towards the MLS team. So like the results are heavily skewed in favor of the MLS and against Liga MX. And I think the media is kind of running away with it a little bit in that like it's like crisis mode because well that sells for them. And I just want to go ahead and add some context to that the results aren't so different from when we play away to the MLS.
Yeah. I don't know how much like an advantage MLS has on the penalty shootouts because it's been a very pro Liga MX crowd.
That's true, but home field advantage does count. Like the grass, you have more time to prepare. You don't have to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like all these things compound and complicate things for the away team, which is always Liga MX in this tournament.
All right. Elbow wins. Ricardo wins. Ricardo wins. Joel and Ron.
Uh, well, like I said, I'm not watching League Cup. Just waiting for the league to start up again, and just wondering, you know, who Aguirre and Rafa are going to call up on their first call up. That's really kind of like what I've been thinking as of late.
That's true.
So, like I said, I don't plan on watching. I don't plan on watching the Leagues Cup. So really, I'm just kind of like taking a break. Just trying to keep up. Keep up on the news and on transfers and stuff like that because I just kind of want to see how Ama's gonna. I want to see like their full roster. That's kind of like basically just thinking about the national team and thinking about America's roster. That's really kind of like been keeping me busy as of late. But gentlemen, it's getting late. Joel, any last thoughts?
Yeah, just on Rafa, I'm interested in what he's gonna say, like what his plans are um, with the national team, since he's tasked with pretty much kind of like rebuilding the team. It's kind of something that they want, and is he's gonna start working, you know, once he arrives, or is he gonna wait? And so if he starts working soon with the youth teams and trying to implement a playing style and all of that. So I don't know. I'm interested in that. And I don't think there's one way to go about it. You know,
You're right.
just because he doesn't do X is not gonna. It's so random. So I just really curious what his plans are.
Yeah, I just think right now, Aguirre like Rafa, I think they just need to keep it simple and not.
No, but that's with the current senior team. I'm like, if you know that after 2 years you're taking over, um, what are your plans? And it could be like, well, I'm gonna start working with some of these 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds that in 2 years are gonna be, you know,
I
already,
mean, the only
they could be ready.
the only advice that I would give Rafa is no le pongas mucha crema al taco. That's really what I would only say.
Una descremada.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
Joel, did you have your closing thoughts already?
Oh yeah, those were it on Rafa, and
Mm,
what is he going? How is he gonna go about it?
yeah.
Um, is he gonna just wait till his turn in the hot seat, or is he gonna start setting something up for when it's his turn? He already has a good pool of players to pick from. He's sort of what like Bielsa does. You know, he's already looking at the younger talent that he could use,
Mhm.
and because and I'm going with the younger players because it's like I think one thing that the selección needs is more competition, more internal competition. You don't have that much, but if now you have a group that this guy's been working with, um, now there's like a bigger pool to choose from, and so I do feel that you know that will be a good way of starting this proceso.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very curious to know how everything goes out for this new chapter in the Mexican national team. I'll definitely try to view the press conference live. I'm sure there'll be some cringy moments, and I'm sure they'll try to say things to try and convince us that everything's back to on track. But that's something that they've been trying to pitch us for the last 4 years. Don't have any closing thoughts. Just want this League's Cup to be over with already, so we can go back to Liga MX. Um, and that's really all I have. I haven't been watching the Olympic football games because we're not in them. So, yeah, we'll let you guys go. Thank you guys so much for your participation tonight. It was great, a lot of emotions, and we are on Twitter Spaces, on YouTube, and on cantinamx.com. So if you want to continue to follow us, make sure to follow us on those socials, and we'll catch y'all on the next one. Good night.